Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, the blob that ate NXT has a semi-famous fan. We're going to talk the stars in Uncle Dave's eyes and AEW in the state of confusion and tales of my youthful exploits in wrestling. All that and more today. And joining me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's a dandy Yankee with a big doodle, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again for this Yankee Doodle dandy of a show.
You can't wait to hear Jimmy Cagney. I am a Yankee Doodle dandy. I can't do Cagney. You dirty rat. He never actually said that.
No.
But he was wonderful singing Yankee. He was Yankee Doodle Cagney.
It's not even the singing, it's the performance. It's the way he moved around the stage. It's kind of, wow, look at this guy go.
He was a fucking hoofer of the first order.
You know, we were just quickly off air right before we were recording talking about this. So I'm going to bring it to the air. Maybe not all the way back to Cagney in black and white, even though I love that stuff, but just the Technicolor era. And then right after it. Those films look better than today's films. They're shot on better cameras today, technically. But everything, even when it's not synthetic, looks synthetic. And then they add CGI and AI to everything.
It looks fake, just like wrestling today.
Nothing looks right or feels right. Everything's a close-up. Just everything that made movies great is kind of gone, and then they're like, we don't understand why people aren't embracing the movies the way they used to. Because you're not making fucking movies. You're making CW shows that go 3 hours long.
Well, when Buster Keaton took those bumps, he was really taking bumps because they didn't have special effects. But even just until 20 years ago or whatever, when all the computer shit started, and also I would rather see human created special effects. It doesn't have to go all the way back to Willis O'Brien and fucking King Kong, for God's sake, or the Melee's brothers, whatever. But or the Lumiere brothers, I'm sorry, or Melee's. But
the Maisels.
It's got, thank you. But it's got to be, to me, I will forgive what I know is a man-made effect rather than just, oh, we typed this shit in the computer and now we've got an 80-foot lizard. I mean, I know that the Amazing Colossal Man, you could see the mountains through him when he was walking along, especially in War of the Colossal Beast. That was a fucking home production. It doesn't have to be shitty, but really well done. And that's the art of it. And I still know that somebody did it, but it looks so cool. But there's no art in CGI, just like there's no talent in deathmatch wrestling, right? Anybody can do that. I want to see people do the art in the movie if it costs $200 million.
You know, I just read this great book called The Last Kings of Hollywood about George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg and other filmmakers around them, but really how they elevated what movies were in terms of the big opening, the box office, breaking box office records, the acclaim, whatever it is. They all had different experiences. And I know Star Wars was like a massive pain in the ass to make. Like George Lucas hated the process of making the films. But those films look incredible. And the first sign of all this was when George Lucas, it came out that he was making episode 1. They were going to make the prequel. And also they were going to re-release the original films in theaters. And he started fucking around with CGI. And he said he was adding the things that he wanted to be there when he first made it, but there weren't the technical capabilities to do it. It never made any of the original films better. He changed things and added things, and it looks synthetic when none of the other weird shit in those films did. Because it was all filmed. I mean, even the paintings, the matte paintings behind them versus computer graphics, it looked better. And then he put out his new films and over-relied on it, had Jar Jar Binks. And that was the first sign that, you know, it was better when these people were doing everything by hand. It took longer. It was expensive. But it looked better.
When I was a kid, when I was a kid and the Tarzan Theater was on WHAS on Saturday afternoons, it got me interested in African geography. Where is the Mutia escarpment? Where is this goddamn place at these cliffs and they fall off and there's this giant, escarpment in the middle of nowhere. And then when I started getting into movies, by the time I'm a member of the movie book club, by the time I'm fucking 11 or whatever, I had a book of the month on movies, radio, television, whatever. And I learned about the matte paintings and the forced perspective and the way that they could paint the background and then dress it with the actual real shit in front of it, but fucking put the slides in behind and move the camera in. And it looks like it's a goddamn 5 mile high mountain that he's fallen off of. That's even better. I don't have to go to Africa. I can just figure out how to do this. Anyway, how long does the fucking World Cup last, Brian?
Oh, it's endless. I think it goes on for like 20 years. It just doesn't stop.
It's for the last month, it seems like I've been trying to watch my afternoon local news, and it's on the network, the FIFAs, and I got to go to the secondary channel, and I'm just thinking, and it's at all hours of the day and night from all over the place. How many games do they play? The NCAA tournament's over in what, 2 weeks?
Well, again, it's countries from around the world, and not everything's single elimination. You play multiple games, and
well, you can lose and still go on.
You could lose, I think, if it's a match that doesn't determine anything or lead to anything. I kind of hate soccer.
Is Tony Khan booking this shit too?
I know, like right now, especially, everyone's hot for the World Cup, and as we've always said, soccer is the sport of the future, and it always will be here in the States.
Yeah.
But I can't watch it. And I know people say, oh, but you like baseball. Yeah, because baseball's awesome. I can't stand soccer.
Well, I'm not really up on my soccer or football for our global fans. Who started calling it football first? Was it when football was invented by Newt Rockne here in America? Or were they already calling the soccer the football over there? Because somebody ought to have to give this up. This sounds like a WWF, World Wildlife Fund, World Wrestling Federation trademark issue. As somebody needs to goddamn settle in a court of law. Is there any information on this? I'm seriously asking you.
Let me see.
Who stole the term football? You're not answering me. Are you trying to Google and act like you know just right off the top of your head?
Oh, no, I was actually Googling because I didn't know. I thought that's what you wanted me to do before.
Well, that's what I want you to do, but normally you're just right there where I think it just comes off the top of his head.
The term, this is an AI overview from Google.
Oh, shit.
The term football was not invented by a single person. It evolved in medieval England to describe various traditional ball games played on foot.
It could be bowling.
Historical evidence shows the word being used in English text as far back as the 14th century to distinguish these folk games from sports played on horseback. The origins and evolution of the term date back centuries. Reaffirms that there.
So commercially,
in 19th century England, different schools and clubs developed their own rules for association football, or as we would call it, soccer.
That was what year?
19th century.
Oh, so and football.
American football, the hybrid sport played in the U.S., adopted the name football in the 1870s when college teams shifted their rules closer to rugby.
Oh, God damn it. Now, there's another thing that's come up. First of all, we've got to pinpoint this needs to be a search. Can we get Stephen P. New or somebody on this, his investigative team? Because we got to narrow down exactly who called it football first between England and America in the 18 whatevers. And then we've got to find out if the American football people owe the rugby people any royalties, or should they have been calling it rugby all along? And then, since the NFL has apparently more money than fucking Christ and the government combined, I think that the NFL needs to pay, if they are found to have adopted the term football after the English did, they got to pay the English for the last 156 years or whatever it is. It's a lot of shit to sort out here. This case could go on forever.
It could. The English don't own the word football. And it
well,
sounds
if
like
they started using it first in a commercial capacity of teams kicking a ball around.
It's in the public domain at that point, then. If we're going based on that.
Not if it's been an ongoing concern.
Mickey Mouse is an ongoing concern. And the early days of Mickey Mouse are now in the public domain.
That's a character, not a genre. You can't, that's the thing. They can make Mickey Mouse or whatever the fuck, but you can't call it Walt Disney Productions.
This is insane. You can't.
I'm saying it is the National Football League or the FIFA, whatever the fuck that stands for. Fuck information. Fuck you in the ass. You're not going to see your news, whatever it stands for. It's the company name, the producers or the owners, the WWF, as long as it's an ongoing business, where the WWE, nobody else can call themselves World Wrestling Entertainment. So I think some people need to dig in and goddamn settle this shit.
FIFA is the Fédération Internationale de Football Association.
Well, then it ought to be FIDFA.
They leave the D out.
Well, what did D do to get left out? Why, it just, because it's only a couple of letters, it doesn't qualify as a real word like all the other words? What about as and if?
Well, they leave out D.
FIDFA.
Much like a lesbian bar.
Oh, all righty. Well, in that case, we will move on.
We hope everyone enjoyed this great coverage of the World Cup.
Past that, and followed by a fucking old lesbian joke. Speaking of old lesbian jokes, we're going to talk about Mason Ruth later on. But in the meantime, I have the totals, ladies and gentlemen, the sales of my book, Heroes and Friends, at jimcornette.com during the month of June, as we said, the last week of May. To benefit the WHAS Crusade for Children has come to a conclusion, because as we sit here, it is officially July, although the 4th is just hours away. And the grand total, 307 copies of Heroes and Friends at $25 is $7,675. Plus, our friend Chad Keeney sent that check for $250. That's $79.25. And since I've got OCD and I hate odd numbers, and also I make a halfway decent living being myself, I'm going to round it up to 10 grand. So $10,000 for the WHS Crusade for Children from sales of Heroes and Friends from you guys, the Cult of Cornette and associated listeners, and we appreciate that. Brian, did you have a copy, but did you buy another copy just because of it's a good cause?
No, I wanted to make sure that there were enough to get into the hands of the good people out there. I didn't need an extra.
You didn't want to deprive anybody.
That's right.
Okay, I understand now. So I'll expect just your check for nothing in return coming in momentarily. Is that correct?
The what now? The check for nothing? Yes. Expect a check for nothing. I agree.
The money for nothing. But the book is not free. But anyway, thank you guys. And since I mentioned the 4th of July, everybody knows that that's a famous date in history. I mentioned this a few months ago or whatever, but it's a famous day in history, July the 4th, my 50th anniversary as an actual, I don't know how you'd phrase this, Brian. I'll explain it, see if you can tailor it up. An actual professional in making money at wrestling. It was 50 years ago on July 4th, 1976, that I took the first photo that I sold commercially, professionally, at the merchandise tables Billy Superstar Dundee, as a matter of fact, in all of his 70s glory, standing in the ring. And so that's the what started it all. So it's my 50th anniversary of the first thing I did that actually I got paid for in wrestling, which sounds kind of unwieldy, but it's noteworthy. How would I phrase that?
I don't know. You said a lot.
Well, God damn it, then I'll say it all again so you can get a good grip on it. No, anyway.
50th anniversary of...
Yes.
Was this your first job? Technically, a first gig?
It was my only job ever. I did a lemonade stand because I saw it on fucking TV and wanted to do it, right? So I did a lemonade stand when I was like 8 or whatever. And then I think it's my cousin Larry helped me build a rudimentary little wooden box that I could set the goods on and everything. And then we went, and my mom helped me carry it down to the road. And then we realized this is fucking, what was I, 8, did I say? So this was 50 something years ago. And I'm still in a fairly rural area. So there was like 6 people that came by when my mom called him and said, Jimmy's got a lemonade stand. The neighbors and 6 people encompassed the 3/4 of a mile around, right? And it wasn't like we had any through traffic. So she booked them to come and buy some lemonade from me because she knew there was no goddamn way on this rural road in the middle of the fucking woods that anybody's going to come by and stopping by. If you stopped on this road, you'd be killed potentially if any other car came by. So that was the only other time that I ever did anything professionally to make money, if you can call it that, until wrestling. But anyway, I had done a few things, I will tell you this, odd jobs for nothing because I was fucking 12 and 13 and I'm a mark, right? I'm a fan, but I'm a mark, and proudly so. Do you know at what age that I wrote my first TV format?
Your first TV format? I don't know, no.
13. And it was not a made up TV format like I'd like to see this. I figured out a way to do a professional TV format and didn't know it until fucking years later when I saw one. But at the time in 75, Louisville got 2 TVs. They got the Memphis show on WDRB, and they had another clearance, which I think Nick may have partially been trying to backdoor Jerry Jarrett a little bit on Louisville. Because sometimes we'd get, especially when Jerry was down booking Georgia or whatever, we would get Nick's show when we only had one airing. We get Nick's show for several weeks, and they'd stick George up here. And then it would suddenly go back to the Memphis show. But when they had 2, it had to be one of Nick's shows from like Birmingham, Chattanooga, whatever. So one time they cut the goddamn last 10 minutes off of the tape. The TV station did. And it was 50 minutes into the show and suddenly boom, and they had a travel log. I don't fucking know. And to be honest, since it was Nick's tape, it could have just been they fucked it up or whatever happened. But they had also had a deal where some of the local promos had not aired right. And several of the fans told Teenie about it. And of course she knew who I was because I'm still running around. I'm the biggest customer at the merchandise table for those 50-cent black and white 8x10s, baby. And she asked me about the situation. I said, yeah, they cut the last 10 minutes off and they did this. She said, would you keep track of that for me, Jimmy, so that I can complain to the station? Yes, ma'am. So what I did was every Saturday from then on until I started taking pictures, I think. And then, she said, they've been good, because I'm doing so much other stuff. I got my dad's old Army watch and set it to 12 o'clock straight up and hit it as soon as the show started. And I proceeded to write everything down. Open, 30 seconds, desk, match, boom. The commercial breaks, I wrote down what the commercials were and how long they were, and the promos, what they were about. And I wrote it up like a goddamn run sheet. I didn't know because I'd never seen one. And when I gave it to her, She said, well, this looks like one of the TV run sheets. And I thought she's just being nice. And later on, I found out that's exactly how you fucking did it. But nevertheless, I did that for like a fucking year or whatever when I was 13. So it was practice on being able to time and, 6 segments, 5 breaks, sometimes an hour show in different places. I've later learned to be 7 segments, 6 breaks, but shorter breaks. They'd shave 30 seconds off of each, but it was a basic tutorial that I figured out in how to time a run sheet, not necessarily a TV format, which would have a little more things broken down, but at least the run sheet. I was doing radio when I was 17. Never heard myself on any of the radio stations. Because at the time I've talked about the spot shows, like let's say we're going to be in Boonville, Mississippi at the Northeast Community College. When I started going to more towns, by the time I'm 18 and Teeny asked my mom if she could do the merchandise in Evansville, etc., I'm also carrying the tape deck around because God, even 1979, even in the early 80s, the guys on the card that had music were Jerry Lawler, Jimmy Valiant, the Midnight Express, Condrey Rose, and Norvell Austin, when they came in 81, occasionally like Kamala had jungle music, but only 2 or 3 guys on the same card, if that, would have entrance music. And none of the building people knew how to fucking do it without fucking it up. So I was taking a portable boombox around with the tapes that I would run to like in Evansville, I'd run up to the stage and get to the announce position where the PA mic was. And I would play the goddamn music for the guys that had entrances. And then they said, well, go in and do the introduction since you're there. So I would do the introduction, right? Well, then Miss Jarrett said, well, the sponsors like of the spot shows, the football team or the Little League or the local whatever, they know the radio station there in Huntingburg, Indiana, or in, wherever. And they said, if we can send them a 60-second spot, they'll play it. Could you make some spots? Okay. So I took the tape deck downstairs and I would interview the guys. And they're like rolling their eyes anyway, but it's simple. I did fucking Lance Russell. Wrestling Fans Championship Wrestling is coming to Boonville, Mississippi at the Northeast Community College on Thursday night, April 4th at 7:30 p.m. Sponsored by the local Little League. You'll see Brian Last versus Jim Cornette, Bill Dundee versus a kangaroo. And in the main event, Jimmy Valiant will twirl his beard around and squirry array. He'll just go crazy, whatever the fuck, right? And in the studio with me, I have so-and-so. And they would talk for the red. I got the watch. And they give me 5 seconds at the end to say, we'll see you April 14th in fucking Boonville. But I would give her the tapes and I never heard them because I wouldn't listen to the radio in Boonville. Anyway, where was I?
They were lucky they had you. If it wasn't you, it would have been Randy Hales.
Well, he was doing it at the other end. See, while I was doing it for the teeny shows in Kentucky and Southern Indiana, he was doing the same shit in Memphis and Arkansas. See, you got to have gophers in more than one location, so that way you always have something digging up your yard.
One last thing on all this: where are those formats today? I mean, Christine Jarrett, you gave them to her, and
I would always just give them to her every week, just to say, here, everything's good, here it is. Just I think she probably just didn't want to hurt my feelings by saying, Jimmy, it's okay, you don't have to go to this much detail. So she just thanked me.
I'm sure the detail impressed her. I mean, she's the person who really stuck out her neck isn't the right term, but really put in a word for you. It probably impressed her, the level of detail.
Well, I think she didn't approve of Jerry getting me into business. And not because she was losing her photographer or whatever. It just, she said, oh, he's going to get hurt. I think she probably knew that I could get some fucking heat if I set my mind to it. But anyway, and she didn't want Jerry to be a wrestler for the same reason he might get hurt. Anyway, so that's July 4th. It all began 50 years ago, folks, and I'm still here. Oh boy. All right, should we start with the regular fucking program?
Oh, yes. Let's get away from films and World Cup. We've hit films, we've hit sports, we've
and
hit
Boonville, Mississippi on the radio.
That's right, and history. Now we can move on.
Now we can move on to something really ridiculous. Why? What is it about Mason Rook that some people are just unable to grasp the concept of what we have been speaking about here lately? Brian, and the recent incident was, you called me up yesterday or whatever it was, said, holy shit, boy, you ought to see this match on NXT. Oh, God. All right. And old Mason Rook, our friend, the Chernobyl Cherub, was having a match or attempting to do that. And, you know, I watched it and we were going to talk about it here today. But in between then and now, what popped up has become some kind of controversy that's become, if it's possible, even bigger than Mason Rook himself. Because the actor, Paul Michael Glazer, has gotten involved in this thing, chiming in with his opinions. And we had a discussion on Twitter. I'm sorry, what?
Paul Walter Hauser is his name.
What did I say?
You said something that wasn't that.
No, Paul Michael Glazer. That was Starsky. He was on a show that people have seen. That's why that's why I'm thinking. But nevertheless, so let's talk about Mason and the match. Then we'll talk about Starsky.
And by the way, for the record, I told you to check it out because we heard feedback from people who said, you guys complain about everyone in AEW kicking out of everything. You should watch this. And I said, okay,
yes,
that is fair. You know, we complain about that. If this is as bad as that, let's see it.
And I really don't think that it came to the level of kicking out that we see in AEW that we complain about, but I think it also fit the category of, you guys complain about all the weird looking, stupid looking, amateurish motherfuckers on AEW. It's that type of thing. This qualifies. Here's the thing, first of all, I'm not saying that Mason Rook is a horrible person. I'm not saying that I don't want him to achieve happiness in his family life and success in his chosen profession, as long as his chosen profession is not fucking wrestling. Because again, it's like me being cast in a goddamn Brad Pitt role. It just don't work. And since you're going to be on TV and you're going to play a part of a alleged professional athlete in a combat sport, then you're also going to be subject to critiquing. If you're in the movies, it's going to be Siskel and Ebert, or my favorite, Rex Reed. He had a very acerbic wit. Or if it's in the sports section, it's going to be the local newspaper guy going, well, the fucking Mets should have done this. So you're a public figure, an exceptionally large public figure. Mason, when you come to the ring wearing a robe, you look like a hefty bag. But that doesn't mean I want him imprisoned in a gulag somewhere for the rest of his days. But there's no way on God's green earth that anybody with a functioning brain and the discerning eyesight past Mr. Magoo level to compare Mason Rook to Vader or Yokozuna or Big Bubba Rogers, which are three comparisons that I have heard over on Twitter over the past fucking few days. Well, Cornette, you managed Yokozuna. Cornette, you managed Vader. Leon White Vader. Pop his fucking eyeball out and fucking he pops it back in. Vader played in the NFL, was 400 fucking pounds and killed guys. Yokozuna, a 600-pound Samoan that could fucking work like a 350-pounder. Big Bubba Rogers, who became an all-time fucking great as a big man. And they may have been a little hefty. His hiney may have been a little big, Daddy. But when you looked at them, you could say, yeah, that motherfucker's going to eat me like a goddamn KFC drumstick. Bubba was a fucking prison guard. Yokozuna was everything we know about Yokozuna. Fucking Vader was everything we know about Vader. Mason Rook does not look in that genre. He looks, and I'm sorry to say, and Mason Rook would work in a territory, Brian, in 1978. If they'd had Mason Rook in Kansas City, I'm not saying he'd have made it to Carolinas, but if they had him in Kansas City and put a mask on him to cover up the face and gave him a manager to cover up the voice and just let him splash people, and every week he splashes them and they carry him out, then you do some business with him in the house shows. But the not just nationalization, but globalization of wrestling has made it so that a fucking guy that looks like that is never going to goddamn be taken seriously. And obviously, with his face and his voice, he would have been taken seriously then, but you could do something with him. But look at the goddamn visual competition today, and everybody's talking about, oh, but he works like a fucking junior heavyweight. That's another part of the problem. Because you've got, it's inundated with everybody's trying to do fucking splashes and cannonballs. Or not splashes, but flips and cannonballs when he should be doing splashes and fucking butt squashes. Yes, it is somewhat off-putting that people can't see and discern the difference anymore between guys that look like, if not even athletes, badasses, or just fucking people you don't want to fuck with, and somebody that can just do a bunch of flips, because who gives a shit? Whether you're 350 pounds or 150 pounds. Oh, but look at his moves. Look at his face. Second thought, don't look at his face.
You know, it's a lot like Brian Cage. You know, if you're going to say Mason Rook is the big fat guy on the card, and Brian Cage is the big roided up guy on the card, yet they both work like the junior heavyweights, when that would kill their effectiveness. But I guess that would be in a vacuum.
Well, but here's the thing. I don't think Mason Rook's 300 pounds.
How old do you think Mason Rook is? How old do you think Mason Rook is?
Well, no, this is not fair, because I said I thought he looked 14 the first time we talked about him. You looked it up. He's like 29.
29. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, but he's like the Fatty Arbuckle of today's wrestling. Look it up, kids. It's a goddamn incredible fucking story. The day the laughter died, Fatty Arbuckle. But he's the Fatty Arbuckle.
Well, let's clarify, before the scandal. Fatty Arbuckle before the scandal. Nothing to do with the scandal.
He was found innocent. It was all a fucking, it killed his career. It destroyed his career, but he was innocent.
I know he was innocent, but still it destroyed him in the public's eye.
He looks like Fatty fucking Arbuckle. He's got a big face with rosy red fucking cheeks and a big fat belly. And that's the point, is whether he's 29 or he's 19 or he's 12 or whatever he is, it looks like a guy watching or wrestling in fantasy camp. When you watch him, he's doing the goddamn moves as best he can, but you could see on his face, I'm beginning to blow up because I'm moving all this flubber. That's the point. If Brian Cage weighs 280 and he jacked up like that, but 270 maybe, because again, TV ads 10 pounds. I don't think Mason Rook weighs 300 pounds, because in the words of the immortal Arn Anderson, not only does fat look better brown than white, but muscle weighs more than fat. I think that I think he and Brian Cage are about the same fucking weight. But I don't care about, again, the no facials because he's trying to keep up with it and he's trying to remember what to do. And he's huffing and puffing and the state of the cherubic face to begin with. And they're trying to sell him like he's like his road warrior animal. The kid he worked with, Jackson Drake, he was selling his chops like it was Gunther. And every time that the announcers are talking, oh, he's going to, you don't have to be a powerful guy just because you weigh 300 pounds. There is no, unless somehow Mason Rook is the illegitimate son of Paul Anderson, again, Google kids, there's no way that he is as strong as half that fucking roster. And probably most of his strength is in his legs because it has to move the rest of his ass around. And if they do the drills that we're told that they do, then they may need to. We had a Big Show puke bucket at the old building at OVW where he'd blow up and go outside and puke. I think they're going to have a Mason Rook oxygen tank. Again, I'm not saying the guy's not deserving of human compassion, but God damn it, I'm sick and tired of everybody being allowed to play in the fucking wrestling business just because a bunch of marks on Twitter, which we'll get to in a minute, apparently love him and they like the social media attention. But Jesus Christ, it's just visually ridiculous when he's no sell shit and bows up like Road Warrior Animal or Lumberjack Joe LeDuc, pick your generation. And when the one guy ran in, by the way, JD there, old Jackson, what was his name? Jackson Drake. I think if he was better than 160 pounds with rocks in his pocket, I think he might be all right. That springboard backflip double stomp to the gut would be fatal if he was a grown man, though. But it would, no, seriously, fuck. Can you imagine legitimate weight landing on you like that?
It's one of those times where I can't tell if you're actually complimenting him or if you're using the compliment to insult him.
No, I'm just saying you couldn't do that if you were an adult-sized pro wrestler. But when the other guy, the other heel ran in, Rook picked him. He couldn't press him. He had to fireman's carry him, and he couldn't even press him from a fireman's carry. He just had to kind of shoulder hunch him out over the top. And then JD hit the backstabber 1, 2, 3. So that was one thing I was surprised about. They didn't put him over. Maybe they figured, my God, we have contracted with a giant blob of protoplasm here. And perhaps we ought to back up a little bit, but then he beat 2 of the heels up. So I don't know what, but I'm sorry. And he seemed, apparently he's a good-natured young man. He was videotaped playing my critique of him, he was reading my tweet of him. Of course, to try to obviously to get attention, because I do, but he's good-natured about it. But the fans from over there across the pond, wherever he's been fucking wrestling, well, they're just fucking pissed off. My yesterday, I had shit to do in the morning. I was playing with the puppies, and I didn't get to Twitter until in the afternoon. And I thought, what the fuck? There was so much I couldn't fucking read it. I'd come back to it later on in the evening. And it was obviously, normal people were saying, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. People, this is not fucking Dusty Rhodes. This is not Vader. This is not goddamn whatever. And then everybody that spells words with an extra U every once in a while or just uses certain terminology that I know they must be British. And I love my fans over there. And Kenny McIntosh, I love you too, young man. But they're protective of their home talent, aren't they, Brian? So anyway, there's been some pro and con, but yeah, Mason Rook, 300 pounds, and and there's plenty of room for more in the bag. It looks like it's not like it's 10 pounds of shit in a 5 pound bag. He's got room for more. But Jackson Drake beat him, and
I agree with
this.
I agree with what you said earlier. If he had a mask and a bodysuit and a manager who would just be out there, that's it. You're gonna have to face my blob. And there it was. It would work. I'm not even saying it as a joke. It would work.
It would work.
But if you see the face, you can't get past the fact that he's not intimidating looking. He looks like he doesn't grow facial hair. Like there's nothing that's been shaved. So it's just this giant child-looking guy. Like there's nothing about him that screams wrestler. Not that you have to, but you can't get past the appearance. The appearance is...
Yes, next to him, Hong Kong Phooey, old Spitball Bailey looks like a goddamn professional athlete. That's how far on the other end. I didn't know that Mason Rook could take the record for the most unintimidating looking fucking wrestler in the history of the goddamn business.
Well, there's a little bit more to talk about with Mason Rook, but I guess it applies to what I assume we're going to talk about next, which was the actor Paul Walter Hauser's thoughts and...
Now, wait a minute. Is that his real acting name, or is he like a Danhausen fan? And he's like doing the Paul Walterhausen thing.
I think it's his real name. He's an actor. He was in Cobra Kai. I've been on the record in the past saying I hated that role. I'm not going to blame him for that role. The role was just not necessary.
From a picture of him, it looks like he'd have to flap his arms so you could tell whether he was rolling or walking, but go ahead.
And he received some acclaim for the movie based on Richard Jewell, which I have not seen, so I can't judge it. I can only judge his wrestling thoughts and views on what he decided to throw out there.
Well, that's the thing, is that I had just watched that match. Whatever it was that I watched that match, and the next time I get on Twitter, the first thing I see is him tweeting praise of this, how they were in front of the fans, and the fans loved it, and they did whatever the fuck. You might have it there. I can't remember what he fucking said, but it stunned me so bad. It struck me wrong, Brian, as I've said before, that I responded to him with my opinion on what the fuck he was saying. But if you, I don't want to misquote anything. Do you have it where we can read the transcript here, the deposition?
I have a few things. It's a little bit of work. He's deleted his Twitter.
Oh,
so obviously the Nick Bockwinkel brigade really
tweeted him did I tweet him once or twice?
Well, he tweeted out.
So I can take that Twitter account down in one tweet. Okay, go ahead.
He tweeted out, "Watch and listen to the crowd. The people who paid money to watch this show are loving it. They do not care about the Twitter sphere's wiser-than-thou disdain parade. Sorry it didn't meet your Nick Bockwinkel requirements. They got over and had fun. Welcome to wrestling in 2026.
Christ, you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Like he's an ambassador of wrestling in 2026.
Well, yeah, he's got so much experience. He's welcoming people into the group that he belongs in now.
And we should note, he's not just an actor. I know he appeared, I want to say he appeared on an AEW either pay-per-view or pre-show, but not wrestling, just made an appearance. But I believe he's actively wrestling for MLW, who, if you're not a luchador, they'll take what they can get over there, obviously.
Well, I knew that he had one garbage match, a death match with that's where he came on my radar. This was some time back that they were talking about it on the internet. And I thought, okay, well, now he's apparently fulfilled that little fantasy. But I didn't know he was going to try to actually continue, but obviously, well, as we analyze these tweets, it will illustrate the point I was about to make. Brian, do you have my reply to that statement that he made?
I do, and once again, I had to search for this because he's deleted his Twitter. responding to him, and I believe you probably had this sent to you by a bunch of people because that's how I saw it. It's friends and family who got free tickets watching Chaz Bono endure oxygen deprivation, turd blossom. You couldn't have parked Nick Bockwinkel's car. Fuck off! And by the way, give you credit, unlike Paul Walter Hauser, you spelt Nick Bockwinkel's name correctly.
Well, I'm sorry. I have these little quirks where I like to identify famous people in the proper fashion. And because that was the way I felt about this fucking jackoff. Who the fuck is it? He may be an actor. I have not seen him, and in truth, have seen more pictures of him that people have been sending me. I got a couple here on email than in the last day that I've seen him in any pictures. I don't know who the fucking guy is. It just struck me wrong that this wise ass, as you said, it becomes an ambassador for wrestling. And well, now this is the way things are now that we're involved. Fuck you, you fat fucking prick.
In front of that notoriously difficult NXT audience. Are you kidding
Yes,
me?
and again, for the friends and family. The people, that's one of the reasons why he deleted his Twitter, because people were inundating him with dipshit. Those are free tickets, and it's the same crowd every week. And they know everybody. It's at least in OVW, we made money on the fucking concession stand, but it's the same fucking principle. So that was my point, is that these are people that are working with the young talent to boost their confidence because they have a personal interest, and that's why they're the audience there. I'm not saying that none of these people get a pop anywhere else, but for him to make that particular point was specious and certainly deceiving at best. And secondly, for fuck's sake, I know that we all identified with our wrestling heroes, but just because you're a fat flabby fuck doesn't mean that you have to identify with the other flat flabby fuck. That's he's defending a guy that he sees a lot of himself in, I guess. And bring Nick Bockwinkel into all this, which is another thing that doomed Walter Hausen on Twitter, because a lot of people were offended that he was bringing Bockwinkel into this goddamn muck.
And we'll get back to his tweets in a second, but a quick aside, because it came out of your tweet about it being friends and family. Mason Rook responded to you. Thanks, Jim. I'm so grateful all my friends and family from England were in attendance last night.
Oh, yeah. He, well, you know, I'll let you read my reply, but remember, English is his first language, so don't hold it against him.
To which you replied, I didn't mean your specific friends and family, you human waterbed. Let me try that again without laughing. I didn't mean your specific friends and family, you human waterbed. Or there wouldn't have been enough people in the crowd to count to 15 on their fingers.
I just thought that he was trying to, jump in and make it worse. And I wanted to, clarify the fucking record there.
And it was probably minutes later that someone from NXT got in touch and said, do not do that. It's not a good idea to engage. Do not engage. Disengage right now.
Well, Paul Walterhausen had one more engagement before he pulled the plug on his own shit.
Yeah, this was the one that got me. Paul Walterhausen responded to your tweet. My children and their generation will never know or care who Nick Bockwinkel is or was. Doesn't diminish his legacy, talent, what he gave. It's just the truth, Jimmy. The coming generation will likely watch and enjoy Mason Rook and Jackson Drake. Boo-hoo! With a crying face emoji and another little emoji. It's very small. It's hard to tell what it is.
Well, and also, what is he? He's got to be a 40-year-old man. He knows how to use fucking crying faces on Twitter. But nevertheless, Paulie, well, hold up. Before we talk about my response to that, Brian, you brought up an interesting perspective on the whole thing with your reply to that tweet. Would you either read or paraphrase what you told him? Basically,
I replied to it because it got me. The first thing he writes is, my children and their generation will never know or care who Nick Bockwinkel is or was. And I just said, My children will be ignorant is a hell of an argument.
Yeah.
Well, my kids will be stupid. What do you say about that? Well, you got me there. You got me there. Your kids won't be curious about anything. Okay, that's
we're not gonna tell them about that fucking Abraham Lincoln either. He'll be forgotten.
It's just it's an ignorant
and again for people who think we're being too severe and we're hyperbolically doing this for comedic entertainment, the point is that if they are still unfamiliar with the work of all of these legends that we are speaking of, they're still not going to be rewatching fucking Mason Rook matches. And the coming generation is not going to be having many Mason Rook matches to rewatch, as my point of my response to him was.
Yeah, and by the way, also, his response in a lot of ways ignores the actual demographics that actually watch professional wrestling. Whether it's AEW or WWE or NXT. Look at who's watching these shows. There aren't a bunch of kids watching Mason Rook. There aren't a bunch of kids going to school saying, I saw Mason Rook do this and I'm going to do that. That's not the audience watching these shows. These girls are out adults. There acting like idiots in these backstage segments in their underwear for guys like us. It's not for kids. Kids aren't watching.
Well, it's because the adults are the only people who remember when wrestling was actually good, and they're still hanging on in the abusive relationship. But nevertheless, again, the dipshit, even if you make a valid point, if you inserted other people's name in that statement, he's saying it about Mason Rook. So my response was...
You responded, Rook won't be around long enough for a housefly's generation to enjoy. The problem is idiots in the business who are marks for showbiz assholes, who are marks for wrestling, letting them play out in our profession and making them believe they should have opinions. See Hauser, dumbass.
That was Hauser, comma, dumbass.
Comma, dumbass, and that was
yes.
The final message before he deleted his Twitter.
And he wasn't faring well because he also has he's a big time actor, right? I've got 200 and whatever thousand followers, and I block every self-admitted Republican and Trump supporters. So think if I didn't do that, how many I'd have. And him trying to have followers was like at 30,000 or whatever. So I fart in your general direction on that, Paul.
And he got overwhelmed clearly by the negative reaction to this, because even if you are someone
Nick Bockwinkel was started, people were tweeting out Nick Bockwinkel clips and pictures and tributes and fuck this guy. Bockwinkel was the Bockwinkel Brigade. It fired people up.
Because even if you like Mason Rook, and even if you like the modern style, and even if you like NXT, defending that is one thing. When all of a sudden it's like comparing it to Nick Bockwinkel, who, I'm sorry, he may not be a legend to Paul Walter Hauser. The guy was a fucking world champion in one of the biggest territories for the better part of a decade plus. There were a lot of fans who went to those shows. A lot of people knew who he was. There's a reason we talk about him today.
But here's the thing. He was picking one of the few names probably that he knows as a classic wrestler, because he's a superficial fucking mark that's got, that was the other point of my Twitter or my tweet on Twitter. The guys in the business over the last 20 years, especially, I mean, everybody's always wanted to buddy up to famous people, but you know, now there's more quote unquote famous people out there than ever before. So it's a little more prevalent. But the guys that either are wrestlers and they meet a showbiz personality, an actor, singer, whatever, they say, oh, he can get me in the movies, or, oh, I can make money off him, or he wants to get in wrestling, I could train him, or just the promoters will get publicity for putting this guy on our show. You know, the WWE's doing it with I Show Speed. Who are you that shows the speed? I've never heard of this motherfucker, but he's on the goddamn show. Everybody's on a show now because there's so many famous fucking people. And you will find somebody to train this fat fuck enough to, as I said, I'd known that he did some type of death match with somebody, and Okay, that's universally acknowledged. Whatever you think of it, pro or con, it doesn't take talent. Here, hit me with some shit, then I'll hit you with some shit. It's not like you have to have wrestling talent to have a death match. You could just have to be a dumb fuck and want to do that.
David Arquette did that.
David Arquette got airlifted when he got his fucking neck artery sliced open.
His jugular
conveniently enough. Goddamn, the first throat slitting in wrestling history. But point being, now they're trying to get publicity, and that's why I was going to mention earlier. Court Bauer loves celebrity crossovers and publicity of some kind with some segment of the overall audience, whatever his segment of the overall audience is, old Paul Walter Housen's. So they're indulging him because he's a B or C celebrity, whatever letter list he's on, and he's a mark. And now that they've indulged him and let him do this when he had no business doing it, and not even as a guesting radio DJ or talk show host or whatever that gets to do a people's elbow and get the fuck out, but actual competitive matches, they've indulged this. I've got a picture of the guy because Donnie sent us an email, which I'll read in a second. Now he thinks he's got a fucking opinion. And that's why that's the problem. Showbiz dipshits that are marks for wrestling and want to fucking get in it so it's cool. The only thing responsible for that is fucking wrestling dipshits that are marks for fucking showbiz dipshits that let them in the goddamn business. But don't have a goddamn opinion, son, or don't mention Nick Bockwinkel's name, or Nicholas, as those of us who were his friends called him. But Donnie sent me an email, Brian. I got to tell you this and we'll move on. Jim and Brian, thank you both for putting middling actor and wrestler wannabe Paul Walter Hauser in his place for daring to both malign and misspell the name of Nick Bockwinkel. Unfortunately, this idiot who thinks he can lecture wrestling fans and pros about what draws free attendance at a recent NXT fantasy camp shows he's been trying to get a 4 Horsemen movie off the ground for several years. He is actually delusional enough to think he could convincingly play. Brian, drum roll, please. Do you have a drum roll? Good enough. Arn Anderson.
Oh my God, get out of here.
On the screen, which might be the only thing to challenge the Iron Claw's casting of Ric Flair. We have a quote here from Paul Walterhausen. It's no secret that I've been pitching a Ric Flair 4 Horsemen movie for a while. Ric Flair would be Sebastian Stan, and there's a picture of this guy. Wait a minute, who? Yeah, Sebastian Stan. He's got a fucking buzz, not a buzz cut, but just like where the hair barely grows out all over your head, and it's black with a black beard and looks more like, I don't know, goddamn serial killer than Ric Flair.
This is the guy who played Bucky in the Captain America movies. I don't know who this guy is.
Okay, well, he would be Ric Flair. I would play Arn Anderson, old Paul says. Jesus Christ. Maybe Emil Hirsch would play Tully Blanchard. There's a picture of Emil Hirsch.
That is funny.
I don't know who this fucking guy is either, but he don't look anything like Tully. And then Ethan Suplee would be Ole Anderson.
Oh, stop it. That's
there's
ridiculous.
A picture of this fucking guy. He looks like Lex Luger. He's ripped. He's got an 8-pack. What the fuck? So I don't... Anyway, and then... attached to some pictures so you can see.
Are you serious? Are you being funny when you say he has an 8-pack?
Well, in this picture, some guy, well, maybe it's just 6, but he's got big arms. He's got veins in his arms. He's got a 6-pack. He's wearing trunks and he's just all jacked up.
Must have lost a ton of weight. I haven't seen him in a while. He was the big fat kid in like Mallrats. My Name is Earl. like American History X. He was in a bunch of things, but he was never ripped or anything. And either way, whether ripped
Maybe they photoshopped this guy's head on another guy's body.
I don't think he'd be the guy to play Ole Anderson.
Well, no. And here's another quote from Paul. I haven't had that many big pops yet, but one of the ones I remember was going through a door off of the stage onto Macklin. Hauser said, "We got a holy shit chant," which anyone who knows wrestling knows that's reserved for a moment everyone appreciates or didn't expect.
Oh my God.
When you're lying on the ground checking to make sure you're not hurt and you hear that, it's empowering.
Oh boy. I got footage that was sent to me, some guy on Twitter, Machiavelli, if that is indeed his real name. Machiavelli sent me a clip of this Paul Walter Hauser wrestling in MLW, I guess it's center stage. It can't be. But I swear to God, this is a 10-foot ring. This is the tiniest thing I've ever seen. And he can't do anything. He just tried to do an atomic drop. He can't do, not good.
Yeah, they're indulging him and his head's getting big, obviously, as a result. And then see the wrestlers and the promoters that can gain something from it being involved with him have pumped his head up. But when he gets out in the world where he's talking to the average wrestling fan and or the disenfranchised fan that still follows us, that loved wrestling, but since there's no wrestling anymore, they've moved on. They don't like hearing that shit slandered by these fucking perpetrators, interlopers, and instigators.
And Wrestling for MLW tells us that WWE wanted nothing to do with you, and AEW said, why don't you just go do that over at MLW? Man, these companies jump on any celebrity they can get, and everyone's like, yeah, why don't you go do that at center stage?
Yes. And that's the thing, is that even if this ain't like this is Bad Bunny or somebody saying this. This
ain't even
Paul
Big Boom AJ.
Davids.
This ain't even Big Boom AJ saying this.
And Big Boom AJ's got more followers on Twitter, and he's still on it, motherfucker.
And to be fair, he was a wrestler, so he actually, was trained and everything. But, geez, what a mistake. Again, if he had just made it about fighting you about Mason Rook, it'd be one thing. But to all of a sudden, of all the names that drag into this, he could have said anyone. He could have said Tito Santana. Like, no one would have been this offended, but you named the guy that
never anybody had anything bad to say about, and was universally recognized as one of the smoothest performers in the business for 30 years. And
it's a cliche that if you ask anyone about Nick Bockwinkel, like the first word they say is class. Just class. Yeah. Classy guy. And that's the guy that this guy tried to malign, and then he ran away from Twitter. So,
but Brian, maybe, just maybe, what old Paul Walterhausen needs now, since he's got more time that he's not saying stupid things on Twitter, is he needs to get better rest. Because if he got better rest, he'd probably be able to think more clearly, and then he would have followed, for example, the Sean Waltman rule: do not engage with Cornette. Or he would have just thought about not mentioning Nick Bockwinkel's name instead of slandering somebody maybe that deserved it more, like Mother Teresa. But he's not getting enough rest, because all those death matches have rung his bell, and also he's not sleeping on the right kind of mattress, Brian. And you know how that can be, because you and I, once upon a time, we slept on mattresses that weren't made by our friends at Helix. Over at helixsleep.com, they didn't exist yet. It was back in the pioneer days when we had to sleep on bales of hay or turkey feathers. And every once in a while with them turkey feathers, you'd get goose shit. So you'd sleeping on a bag of dry grass and goose shit, and it was a fire hazard. But then Helix Sleep came along and changed the game on the mattress business, and now that's why they're way ahead of it. Because they've got so many different 20-plus unique mattresses to choose from, plus a variety of mattress toppers. They've got mattresses you can sleep on your stomach and on your back, and with your little puppy dogs, Brian. You can curl the little puppy dogs with you, and you can know that you're not going to die in a grass fire when you're sleeping on a Helix mattress, or you're not sleeping right on top of a bunch of excrement laid by stupid birds. That's what Helix can do for you, folks. And I know that you want to stay off the bird shit like we do. And I know that you're going to go to helixsleep.com and you're going to take the quiz on what kind of mattress is going to be perfect for you. And then they're going to ship it right to your door seamlessly. That means nobody gets any stitches in the whole process of the delivery. Sometimes, you know, somebody can bonk their head or drop one of these boxes on their foot, but nobody's going to get any stitches. It's seamless. And if you don't like the mattress, if it does smell like goose shit, then you can send it back.
It won't smell like goose shit. It won't.
Well, that's because there's no goose shit in it. I just made that point.
Yeah.
See, agree. That's why you can.
I agree with you.
But they guarantee if it does smell like goose shit, then they're going to give you your money back because it's a risk-free trial period, 120 night sleep trial. And it's got a limited lifetime warranty. Let's say that the goose feathers there was some goose eggs in there and the gooses hatch later on and start shitting. It's a lifetime warranty on that.
It won't smell anything like that. It has nothing to do with this. There's going to be no goose or geese involved in this process.
Every once in a while, an egg does hatch, right?
There is no every once in a while.
Biology. You can't prevent reproduction. So
that is indeed how biology works, yes, but once again,
yes, so folks,
not your mattress.
Yes, and it's comfortable. It's more comfortable over at Helix. So
again, mattresses that are clean and brand new just for you, sent in a safe and sanitary way to you. You open it up, it'll unfurl in front of you. It'll smell clean. It'll be clean. It's a wonderful mattress that we trust in our homes. I have them here. Jim has them there. And you could do the same thing. Clean, wonderful nights of sleep with Helix Sleep.
Wonderful, clean. Oh, it smells like bleach. I'm a little dizzy now and I'm getting lightheaded. So what I will do is I'll tell you that until July the 12th, now it's a big 4th of July sale, but you don't have to just do it on the 4th of July. Until July 12th, listen to this discount. 20% off site-wide, 25% off the Luxe mattresses, and 30% off the Elite mattresses. And they come completely free of the Jackson Brothers. It's a completely different trademark. All you got to do is go to helixsleep.com/JCE. Use that code JCE, 20% off site-wide, 25% off the Luxe, 30% off the Elite. No goose shit involved. helixsleep.com/JCE.
That's right. We love him and you will too. Helix Sleep.
Well, Brian, talking about a good night's sleep, I'm not sure that some of the people involved in this lawsuit against the former owner of the WWE, Vince McMahon, and everybody involved, the shareholder lawsuit against TKO now, they might not be getting a good night's sleep because is the cookie jar lid slamming a little bit shut on Vince McMahon and Ari Emanuel, and they've got audio tape, voicemail messages confirming that Vince and the various other people were up to the nefarious things that they've been said to be up to. Did that explain that right?
I think you did as good a job as you can. It's hard to sum it all up, but Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, and he's been covering this for Post Wrestling, has really just done a fantastic job staying on top of this case and all of these cases and requesting documents, and in this case, audio from the court.
He's a very requesting fellow. I bet he bugs the shit out of a lot of fucking governmental agencies. But we need hound dogs like this in the press.
Oh, and I'm certain that, there's several people in the WWE office that may hate him, but he's doing a great job, an important job. The headline from Post Wrestling: audio release of Ari Emanuel's 2022 offer of legal help to Vince McMahon amid federal investigations. Quote, "There's ways around this. Ari Emanuel made the offer as Endeavor and WWE were negotiating the deal that would create TKO. It's easy to forget all that, but they got the company, they immediately merged it with the UFC. It wasn't just let's get WWE. It was all part of, and it is all part of, a much bigger plan for whenever they finally sell this thing. But let's go to this audio, and we'll stop it along the way. Get your thoughts.
I spoke to my lawyer from Latham, just FYI. Everybody at the DOJ is former Latham lawyers, so on that side will be helpful. SEC, of course, it's SEC, but that's just a penalty. As it relates to everything else, yes, we can indemnify you, and we will. If it's criminal, of course, you can't stop criminal, but this is not criminal. Call me when you get a chance.
Oh!
All right, let's stop there. That's the first phone call. That's Ari Emanuel, who is now the head of TKO, or the head of everything, head of Endeavor.
He's the king of the world!
Long-time Hollywood agent. The character Ari Gold on Entourage was based on him. The character Ari on Larry Sanders' show was based on him. Ari on Conan O'Brien's show was based on him. A lot of agents, and sometimes named Ari, were based on him, going back 25, 30 years.
Well, he's basically telling me, hey, all of these attorneys that you're going to have to deal with in this civil business, well, they used to work for us. We got them in our pocket, or we could put the word in or whatever. Now, if anything criminal comes up, well, but we got this in the bag and we'll indemnify you. Well, first of all, the Latham lawyers were the Department of Justice people, right? So that was that case. And we'll indemnify you means that they were willing to look the other way on whatever it might be that was yet to come out, at least, if not some of the stuff that was already out that affected his relationship with the company. Just if it's criminal, then, we got nothing to do with that. That's about as blatant as you can get, isn't it?
Shows you how badly he wanted to do this deal.
And Vince McMahon would still be there in a high-ranking position in this whole mess if it hadn't come out that he was really fucking even weirder than we thought.
And the indemnify you thing. To who for what? You know what I mean? Like, that's a weird thing to just throw out. Will indemnify you to the shareholders?
Well, I think...
Because, unless you're doing it on behalf of the company and people are coming after the company, how does that work?
Are they saying that we won't hold it against you, any civil litigation or anything that comes up heretofore? We'll take care of that or whatever, but just stay away from the criminal shit.
That must have been a rough call, I've got something to talk about. I've got some problems.
Yeah.
I know we're working on this deal. You should know. Well, let's go to the next phone call. This, once again, is Ari Emanuel leaving a message for Vince McMahon.
Yeah, these phone messages, I hate to jump in the middle of them because they're not that long to begin with. This is not a soliloquy.
And this is September 2022. Let's go to this, once again, discovered by Brandon Thurston.
I'm sorry I'm a pain in the ass calling you, except that the fact that, that's just my MO as you. And I really do think that we all need to get together and talk through all the issues. Because I think whether it be the DOJ or anything, there's ways around this to figure this out. And I don't know what, you're hearing or thinking. So give me a call if you have 5 seconds.
Well, there's ways around the DOJ. And that message that you just heard prefaced a meeting that they had in person in New York at some hotel, restaurant, or whatever with Vince and Linda and Stephanie and several of these people, right?
Do we know if it's Linda? I mean, I'll play the audio in a moment, but it almost sounds like Vince trips himself up and says Linda when he means Stephanie and then corrects himself. But maybe.
Okay, I heard it was reported at Linda, which sounded odd, but at the same time, they're talking about a sale of the company. And I also heard it reported that if something happened to Vince, his will was still structured that family members, including Linda, would have some say in what the fuck was going on. So they may have needed her either approval or at least acknowledgement, or she needed to be in on the information.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll play this audio. Last I heard of Linda, she was about to be impeached. But hold on, let's go to this.
Yeah, she's got her own worries.
This is now Vince McMahon leaving a voicemail for his banking advisor. And I believe there were previous, I want to say messages or emails that we read where, all these guys were in, if you don't want to say cahoots, they were in a network where they all knew each other. Ari knew the banker knew Vince. It was a whole circle of people here. Let's go to this.
Hey, Jeff, Vince, it's 10:13. Very good meeting with Ari and company. And I think it probably is the best thing to do to go forward with the deal with Ari. It solves a lot of problems. Again, together, I think it's a stronger situation than either one of us on our own. But I'm pretty sure that's the way I want to go now. It's easier, faster, and all that other kind of stuff. So let's talk in the morning. And I didn't commit to Ari, but let's talk in the morning and go. Jeff, thank you so much. Sorry to call you so late. We just broke up. Well, I just broke up with Ari. Was like an hour ago we left or something. And Linda, Stephanie and I and Nick were talking, so we just broke that up. So we'll talk in the morning. Thanks.
And there
I found a button. He starts to ramble. I've never, you know what? I don't remember ever hearing Vince leave a voicemail. He generally, remember I've said he didn't get recorded a lot saying shit, at least with his knowledge. But they had planned this whole thing. And, when Stephanie was in the way, they had to get Stephanie out of the way, whatever, but it's come out. They planned the whole thing to where either Nick Khan, I believe it was, or Emmanuel, one or the other, was telling other people the timeline of where Vince was going to be out, and then he's going to force his way back, and then they're going to take the board over, and then they're going to do the deal.
Well, also we should point out, at least to what I see and what I think, you could say what you think, even when she resigned, it's clear as day that Stephanie McMahon was a part of all this and not in a contentious way. She was a willing participant and a part of the whole plan. And we should remember that, because the idea, one of the things that caused her to get these pops is because people think she's not her dad. And people think that she was one of the good ones in the family. She was one of her and Triple H will save it all now that they're away from Vince. She was a part of every step of this.
Well, but at the same time, I don't know that did she want Vince to sell it, because with Triple H and she would have ended up running the thing and maybe making the same amount of millions of dollars that they are now anyway, but they wouldn't have had these executives over the top of them making $30-40 million. Because she was coming and going when Vince was coming and going, was the family member that talked Vince into leaving. Oh, you got to go. Was that Stephanie? So it was like the old Heyman trick where he puts his arm around you and he starts telling you all the things you should be miserable about your job while he's figuratively walking you out the door.
And then we're going to find out it was Nick Khan behind all that. And who's Nick Khan report to? Ari. That's the thing. We've now find out that there were board members who thought it was Nick Khan that leaked everything to the Wall Street Journal. If you think he did that, he wouldn't have done it for no reason. What was the incentive? What was the goal? It was to get Vince out. That's the only conclusion you could have. It would either be to get Vince out or to hurt the company. So what was he doing at the same point that his longtime compadre, Ari, was working from the other end on Vince?
He was working from the other end on Vince.
That's the real story. I think maybe we'll find out down the road. They found a way. They came up with a plan to get this company and merge it with UFC, and they found a way to get fucking Vince out of the way, one way or another. That's what I think.
with information that they had to, that Vince actually had to tell them because of what all would be going on. And I'll say one other thing. He sounded very, again, short of breath compared to the way his voice used to project, and he would talk like that. And hey, well, hey, pal.
Yeah, I mean, this was December 13th, 2022. He said the time. That's what I was trying to see. It was 10:13 p.m. So 10:13, December 13th, 2022. Him and Stephanie and Nick Khan, maybe Linda, were meeting with Ari about all this.
That may have been Friday the 13th. Somebody ought to check the calendar.
Stephanie's involved in everything. A lot of people are giving her a free pass because they don't want to believe it. She was involved in all this. It's clear. But there it is, and we'll see what else. Hopefully Brandon Thurston can get more shit. This is great.
Yeah. What a fucking shit disturber he is. Tell it all, Brandon. We're behind you. Speaking of poop disturbers, Brian, old Uncle Dave has bestowed upon us all and the people that really matters to him, the wrestlers themselves. That's who he's communicating with. The star ratings for the weekend big shows. The WWE had the Saudi Arabia show. AEW had the Night of Endless Wrestling. And he has rated that. And I'm assuming that, as he usually does, he stayed fair and square and down the middle. And he's giving both shows similar ratings because why would you do otherwise?
Well, we will find out because the AEW one, I believe he was there live. It was in San Jose. So it'll be the difference between watching something on TV and actually being in attendance. He has not gone to Saudi Arabia, to the best of my knowledge, yet. We'll see what happens.
Can we take up a collection to send him there?
It would blow their minds. Jim, let's go to the star ratings for Night of Legends in Saudi Arabia.
Night of Champions.
Night of Champions. Night of Legends
Don't use my trademarks, son of a bitch.
Night of Champions. No legends needed here. Jim Obafemi defeated Jey Uso to win the King of the Ring tournament. 7 minutes, 55 seconds. 3.25 stars.
Well, let me just say this for the benefit of the younger viewers or short-term listeners that haven't been up on this, and just to remind everybody else, of course, Dave has stolen the scale that was invented by my old friend Norman Weasel Dooley in 1979 or whatever the fuck it was. And on the 4-star scale, just like the Leonard Maltin movie books, 1 is bad, 2 is okay, 3 is really good, and 4 is great. And there used to be a dud for something that was rotten. And then, because the only people that gave a shit about any of this, and still that should be the case, were the 42 people that got Norman's newsletter, he came up with, once we saw Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk, or the 8-man brawl at the Louisville Gardens, or Flair and fucking Piper live or whatever, then there became a 5-star because, wow, this was so much better than any shit that you've ever seen before. That's where it was. Now Dave has just uncorked it and just showers it upon everybody, and he has his favorites and his favorite style, as we know, or his favorite promotion, as we know. But being real, 1 is bad, 2 is good, 3 is really good, and 4 is great. And Obafemi and Jey Uso was 2 for kind of, just the average.
And on that scale, 5 would be just all-time classic, something that you have to tell someone to see, something you need to watch again. Classic.
Yes, it changed my life.
Dave went well past 5 stars to the point where, and he can't really fully explain why. Because does that mean that a match that got 5 stars 30 years ago was the best it could be, or it could have actually gone higher than that?
Well, it could have gone higher if we'd have known that we could just go higher. Everybody was restrained for so long to common sense and logic and what the fuck. It's the same fucking scale. They rate Gone with the Wind on the same fucking scale as goddamn Titanic. They were 60 years apart. It's the same fucking thing. Anyway, continuing.
Frankly, Jim, I don't give a damn. Let's move on.
Well, there you go. See, Dave doesn't give a darn.
Io Sky.
Oh, boy.
Defeated Liv Morgan to win the Queen of the Ring in 14 minutes, 53 seconds. 3.5 stars.
Well, he can't be sexist. He's got to, give them the same thing or people will get mad at him.
Well, it's actually slightly higher. It's a 1/4 star higher.
Well, there you go. He's even bending over backwards so people will know he's not misogynistic. That's people who like to get massages.
Jim, Seth Rollins defeated Braun Breaker in a cage. 19 minutes, 3 seconds. 4.25 stars.
Okay, and I'm a fan of Braun's definitely, and both guys really. And as we said, if they'd have bothered to have a cage match instead of throwing all the furniture in the ring, it would have been a lot better. But no, we didn't approach Flair Steamboat territory there.
Jim, Trick Williams defeated Ricky Saints to retain the U.S. title. 10 minutes, 43 seconds. 2.25 stars.
I agree with him. On the actual real scale, that's what it would be. But to him, with what he does now, it's like telling them to burn their boots.
Tiffany Stratton retained the U.S. title over Jade Cargill.
Speaking of burning some boots.
7 minutes, 39 seconds. 1.25 stars.
Wow. What, did one of their uteruses fall out in the middle of a fucking spot?
According to Dave Meltzer, this was one of the weakest WWE PLE matches in a long time. No heat at all. And then he went on to describe everything that happened, but I'm not going to disagree with him on that.
Well, because remember, unfortunately, I missed that part. But, well, there you go. So he's, after the initial praise flurry, he's calling it down the middle.
Well, finally, Jim, the big main event. Sami Zayn won the WWE title in a 3-way over Cody Rhodes and Gunther. 18 minutes, 38 seconds. 4.5 stars.
Again, I only argue with the quantity, but not necessarily the intent. That was really the best match on the show. They did a good job. It wasn't as memorable as a Michaels Undertaker or a fucking, whatever the case. But I would have said 3 3/4 on the old scale. So what are we arguing about? 3/4 of a fucking star.
Well, that's it. WWE Night of Champions.
So fairly realistic, except for the match that had furniture and chairs and modern silliness. Then he went all over the place. Oh, yeah, 4 and fucking whatever.
Yeah, I didn't like the Rollins Braun Breaker match. I'm surprised the Io Sky Liv Morgan match. Not that I disagree, but I'm surprised it was only 3.5 stars. But that was Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Jim, we have the star ratings from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave Meltzer's star ratings for AEW Forbidden Door.
Oh, boy.
In San Jose, in his backyard, quite
in
literally.
His hometown. I'm surprised they didn't just beam it from his actual backyard. Hey, we're at Dave's house. So he's there live. He's caught up in the moment. He's salivating. He's lubricating. And he's ready to be masturbate.
Well, I'm not sure how much help he needed. But Jim, from the pre-show, Drilla Maloney beat Daniel Garcia 10 minutes, 27 seconds, 3.5 stars.
Okay.
Also,
right. I'm not even going to. Yeah.
From Stardom, Micah
good Lord.
defeated Sky Blue 9 minutes, 17 seconds, 3.25 stars.
Of course it was. There's a green Japanese girl and a green American girl. I have a question for you. do Stardom and these other promotions that he brings these wingdings over from, do they pay Tony, do you think, for, because I could understand it if he's getting paid. Hey, the old deal, make my talent a star in America and I'll put the publicity out in Japan and he'll be a big deal. Does he get paid to take these fucking people, or is he actually using his own funds for this?
I'm pretty sure it's Tony money, if I had to guess. Also from the pre-show, Jim, Megan Bayne and Lena Cross defeated Thunder Rosa and Olympia, 10 minutes 47 seconds, 3 3/4 stars.
What? Wait a minute. Megan Bayne in a 3 3/4 star match. He is, I'm telling you, I bet you he had to wear a kilt or people would have seen how excited he was. What the fuck? The fucking pre-show matches are closing in on, but the pre-show girls match is almost 4 stars already. Boy, he's caught up in the emotion of the moment.
Well, Jim, we now go to the main card. The Young Bucks
won
a 3-way match over Místico and Mascara Dorada and Shingo Takagi and Titan, or how'd they pronounce it? Titan. 17 minutes 42 seconds. 4 3/4 stars.
Oh, good. Okay. The opening cold 3-way tag match with his best friends, the Buckaroos and others, is better than Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker or Kurt Angle and anybody. I got you.
Well, Dave loves what he loves.
And they also, is there now, it's still wounding him in one of his, what do the kids say, passive aggressive ways, that they're not calling the Meltzer driver anymore.
Well, remember the
and
audio.
What are they calling it? Do you even know? I didn't watch this fucking match. Do you even know what they're calling it?
I don't think they called it anything when it happened.
Well, that's refreshing.
The audio we played, Dave said that he didn't care, and then he went on to explain.
And then he said, there's, or Alvarez asked him, well, why aren't they calling it? Well, why aren't they allowed to call it that anymore? He said, oh, horrible people.
The horrible people.
The horrible people. The horrible people. So then he mentioned it again in this review. You sent me the little fucking screenshot or whatever of where he said, well, what is the exact verbiage?
The finish was formerly known as Meltzer Driver, but nobody is allowed to say the name of the move.
Number one, it's still chapping his ass. And number two, who are these horrible people? And number three, are they really not allowed to say that? Or did they just come around to realize that to a national television audience that they may hope to one day reach? It don't make any fucking sense. It was just a fucking rib from the newsletters, just like Excalibur. Their announcer is a rib from the newsletters. They were small before they got big, and when they got a big budget, they still didn't grow mentally. It's all... Anyway, continuing on.
The other option, too, is that Dave was told after he asked, hey, how come you're not calling it that anymore? He was told, oh, we're not allowed to. And in reality, they just didn't want to call it that anymore. Because the only people that could stop it being called that are the Young Bucks or Tony Khan, right? I mean, that's it.
Right. Yeah, one would think, but they're horrible people out there.
Did the horrible people get to Tony Khan? All of a sudden now?
Apparently, they abducted a member of Tony Khan's family and said, we're not sending him back unless you change the name of the move.
The horrible people. Well,
speaking of horrible people, what was the next horrible match?
Forgive me, I forgot that it's back to me. Kenny Omega defeated Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh, boy, this one, I bet you, was a half a bottle of Jergens for Dave, because this... You just can't get better than this.
26 minutes, 27 seconds.
Every single goddamn bit of it.
4 3/4 stars. As good as 5.
So we got a string going here, 4 3/4. So everything they did is also better than Everything that's almost ever happened before 10 years ago. Okay.
And it's good as 5, but not 5. So I don't know what the hell any of this is supposed to mean. Again, it's good as 5 is his terminology for what 4 3/4 means. Jon Moxley, Jim, defeated Bandito to retain the Continental title, 18 minutes and 10 seconds, 4 3/4 stars.
Oh, come on.
As good as 5.
So now, just for the people listening out there that may be members of the Bockwinkel Brigade, John fucking Plumber Moxley, Dick the Boozer, has more 4 3/4 star matches than Nick Bockwinkel. Let Dave know how you feel about that.
Now, I told you I liked that match. And I also what did I tell you? I said I liked that match, but the finish. Here's what Dave wrote. Bandito fell backwards, but Moxley kept the choke, and the match was stopped. Fans were very mad that Bandito lost in this manner. Yeah, because it kind of killed them the end of the match.
Yeah. But it was a 5-star match, almost.
Almost.
Good.
4 3/4. Jim Shota Umino defeated Pac to retain the global title.
Okay.
18 minutes and 10 seconds. 4 1/4 stars.
Oh, come on. Is it because of Shota? Is he a fan of Shota? Every time Shota shows up, he should have gave him more stars.
I don't know. That was
okay. This is apparently this is going to be the highest average in the history of pay-per-view.
Jim Tekla retained the AEW Women's title over Starlight Kid.
Wait a minute. Let me guess. 4 1/4 stars.
18 minutes, 42 seconds, 4-star match.
4-star.
Jim.
Yes.
Adam Copeland and Christian Cage retained the AEW World Tag Team titles over Clark Connors and David Finlay. 16 minutes, 46 seconds.
Okay, hold on. As we said, this was the best wrestling match of the night because it's the only one they had that didn't involve furniture and bullshit, burying the referee and all that stuff. But it was a TV match, and it went too long with the level of the over that the heels were at. So this is kind of the definition of a 2.5 star match.
Man, I thought this sucked.
On the old scale.
And obviously Dave did too. 3.5 stars.
3.5? Jesus Christ. Okay.
It's the AEW bump. You get an extra star just for being an AEW. But that match stunk. Jim Mercedes Moné defeated Maya World to win the Women's Owen Hart Cup. 24 minutes, 47 seconds.
Good Lord.
There's no star rating here. Why is there no star rating here? There is no star rating here.
What is he saying about this contest? How was he leaning toward it?
I am not sure. I will double check on this in a moment. We'll come back to this. Jim, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, Konosuke Takeshita, Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly defeated MJF, Kevin Knight, Andrade, Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, and Jake Doyle in a Death's Door match. 30 minutes, 47 seconds, 5-star match.
What? Oh, good God. Where they blew a guy up with a booby-trapped IED in a backpack. Where they exhibited the worst tendencies of every indie-minded outlaw mud show goof in the fucking business and went out there and just made a complete farce out of not only cage matches, but personal issues and any kind of credibility in any wrestler or the wrestling business itself. And that gets 5 stars.
Yeah, I hated it. Again, that may be the best. That match and the match after it may be the best example of the disconnect between different types of fans right now. The ones who can enjoy that cage match and just sit back like Shivani and laugh while all this is happening, which raises the question, what exactly are the wrestlers doing with their lives? But man, did I not like that. And that's a 5-star match. That means he thinks people should go out of their way to see it. That's what that means. I'm looking at something right now. Wrestle Purist tweeted out something that apparently is from the Observer, if not the Observer site. Dave Meltzer on Mercedes Moné versus Maya World. Given the difference in reactions between those live and watching on TV, it's probably better for me to watch this match on TV before rating it. But aside from some hiccups, World did a fantastic job, particularly late in such a long match on a show.
Aside from some hiccups, whenever it starts like that, you know you're softening the excuse of the thing.
She did good on this show, on a show that had so many classic matches. Monet really put her over in what was, by the end, a star-making performance that they will hopefully follow up on. And then it says, editor's note, Dave did not include the star rating for this match. We will add it later Friday and share it on X.
Well, right there has told you that these 4 3/4 coming out of his ass are because he's sitting there probably in ringside in the middle of a bunch of people that are screaming and yelling because that's the most devoted fans. And so he's thinking everything is great. But when he heard how everybody thought that this particular match sucked, apparently, that we're watching the pay-per-view, even he maybe said, well, maybe I ought to watch it back.
Oh, I was thinking it's the other way.
To me.
I think it's the other way. I think he hates that match. And he doesn't want to say that. He's going to give it another shot. He's going to watch it on TV because he must have said to someone, that match sucked. And they said, oh, did you watch it on TV? It was pretty good. And Dave's going to go with his second opinion on it. We'll see what the star rating is. Hopefully we get it by the end of the show.
I wish he'd get a second opinion. Some kind of fucking brain specialist.
Jim, I didn't even realize this until just seeing the times. In a match that was twice as long as the three-way main event to the WWE show, Will Ospreay defeated Swerve Strickland to win the Owen Hart Cup 35 minutes.
Jesus.
8 seconds. 5.5-star match.
Oh, good Lord. Then again, every finish, every fucking piece of excess that they bury the referee, ignore the rules, act like video game characters, and kick out of everything to the point where it's not only just unbelievable, but it's ridiculous to fill their own, again, self-aggrandizing masturbatory fantasies because they just think, well, nobody deserves to get out of here before 12:30 in the morning. We're going to do what we want.
I couldn't wait to
5.5 stars.
I couldn't wait to go to sleep. I was getting mad at the match. Here's what Dave wrote. Will Ospreay beating Swerve Strickland in a match of the year contender and the best match I've ever seen in San Jose after 55 years of attending matches here. The best match I'd seen of my childhood in San Jose was a 6-man tag with Pat Patterson, Billy Graham, and Paul DeMarco versus Ray Stevens, Peter Maivia, and Rocky Johnson. I can't remember a better match until Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho versus Triple H and Steve Austin in the match where Triple H tore his quad, which many considered at the time the best match ever on Raw. So he thinks this is the best match ever in San Jose. I thought it was a slog, a predictable slog. You could have predicted almost everything they were going to do and how it was going to play out and who was going to win.
Well, besides that, it's a whole different scale because when you're looking at, and this is what Dave just forgets and just forgives or whatever, when you look at the overall level of the rottenness of the basics of guys' work today, because they're all concentrating on trying to do these convoluted spots and set this cool shit up and work with the furniture, that just everybody's punches and arm whips and shoot offs and fucking basic holds and basic positioning has fallen to shit. So to me, I'm sorry, but I think that if you got a movie with a really good story, but you hire a guy from the front of Home Depot to be the cinematographer and it looks like a home movie, that takes away. And it's the same. Yeah, you do all your spots and all your fucking furniture, but if you can't actually make the shit in the middle look right, I'm deducting. Fuck you.
Well, those are the star ratings for AEW Forbidden Door minus Mercedes Moné's match, which
Well, yeah, because it's so important to get these things right. People's lives and careers depend on it, Brian. So we'll have to update the people on that once that the news comes out. It's like a recount in an election. You know, Dave listens to himself a lot. I'm just thinking now that Dave listens to himself a lot. That's the feedback he's getting, and that's why that he's so bizarre. And I'm wondering if while he's just sitting around the house instead of watching TV or reading a book or whatever, he's just got the Raycon Everyday Classic earbuds in his ear and he's listening to his own podcasts over and over. Because that's what's forming his opinion. He's listening to himself. And I don't know, folks, if you would rather go around with your Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classics in and listen to yourself drone on about the boring shit that you think, well, you're welcome to it. But I'd rather spend the summer going to a backyard barbecue or sitting outside in nature, enjoying the nice weather, or going to the gym, or listening to my favorite podcast, or listening to some good old-fashioned rock and roll, the kind of music that soothes your soul, and reminisce about the days of old. With that old-time rock and roll, you can do all of those things with the Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic. And Brian, that's the thing. The reason why they name them classics is because you're not allowed to listen to music that's been recorded since the 1980s. That's the one thing they will instantly monitor that out.
They won't, and there's plenty of good music. It may not be the music pushed by the major labels or by the major media conglomerates, but there's plenty of good music always being made, and whatever the music is...
Well, yeah, but it's like a classic radio station. That's why these are the Everyday Earbuds Classics.
No, again...
You want the Everyday Earbuds Modern to play all that new shit.
Again, we should not make up features or tell people...
Do you know when I was 5 years old and I was riding in the car with my dad, who at the time was in his early 50s, and I wanted to listen to wacky radio, he told me that they had disconnected that button because there's a little wire that goes in there that connects to the radio with all the channels, and they took that one out, and I believed it. Because he just didn't want to listen to wacky.
Who's they? They took it out.
Well, they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me the names. They just said they took that out. It don't work on this radio in the car now.
Well, once again, a problem you won't have to worry about with Raycon. You can listen to anything you want, no matter when it's from, no matter what year, as long as you...
Well, what are you, a bunch of fucking anarchists out there? You just want to do what you want with no consequences or repercussions? But I'll tell you what, the Earbuds Classics are packed with upgrades, Brian. They got the active noise cancellation, the multi-point connectivity, the ergonomic design that stays put no matter what you're doing. These things are in so good. Well, let's say you got your earbuds in and Aunt Phoebe comes over to visit. She's just going to grab your ears and pull your face in so she can give you a big smooch. The earbuds will not fall out, even if she lifts you up by your ears. And Aunt Phoebe, she's hefty, so she can do that. They'll stay in, your ears will come off. And there's up to 32 hours of battery life, the quick charge function, the awareness mode, so you can hear the impending doom before it strikes you, and the same premium audio quality as the big brands, but at half the price. 3 million happy customers, 30-day happiness guarantee. You need some buds to keep you happy, baby. Da-da-da-da. And you can listen to that and more by right now going to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON.com/JCE, and you're going to get 20% off. So that's like, of course, it'll be 20%. The audio will be 20% lower in one side of the earbuds, because that's the trade-off you got to make, save some money. You'll hear 50% on one side and 30% on the other side.
Let's stop right now. You don't have to make any trade-off to save money. That's the beauty and the wonderfulness of Raycon. They give you this great deal, and there's no trade-off. You just get the deal for nothing for being a customer of Raycon.
Well, here's the thing. If you just lean your head over to the left and put your fucking finger on your right ear, it'll balance out. Go to buyraycon.com/JCE, 20% off these wonderful earbuds, available in colors like blush violet or cool mint. But they had to take the spearmint out because their ears were setting on fire.
Again, let's just stress, we love our Raycon earbuds. Our families love them. Our families love the earbud. I can't talk. The love is in the air. It's overwhelming. It's taking me over because my ears feel the ear love from the great sounds from Raycon. Take it, Jim. Let's take it home.
Ear love. That's what you call oral sex. Love is in the air. Do with the Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classics.
Once again, that promo code?
JCE.
Buyraycon.com/JCE.
All right. Well, Brian, I know something everybody wants to listen to because we've been going back through my files and my TNA impact reports that I was typing up and giving to Jeff Jarrett on the program back in, well, we've gotten to January of 2007 now. And we just put up on the YouTube channel, if you missed it on the podcast we did, the letter that I'd sent to Jeff with my personal comments on 3 months into the Vince Russo era, what I thought was happening to the program. And that caused people to say, give us some more of this. So just to prove to everybody that I do not have fair weather opinions and my standards do not change, unlike some of the other people who the answer, my friend, is blowing whichever way the wind is blowing. I've always been fairly upfront about what I thought about the business. And so I was giving Jeff these reports, and somebody had sent an email or a tweet, I can't remember which, asking, and you had asked the same thing, did Jeff ever act on any of this? And I said, yeah, he gave me more to produce and more agent work to do it, etc. Okay, you fix it then. But also, you asked me, Brian, who I thought that Jeff was sharing this with. And I said, I gave it to him. It's on paper. I don't know who else he discussed it with, but Dutch Mantell did tell me it was probably about this time because I think they were doing creative at Jeff's house when his first wife, Jill, was sick. So it may have been at this point in time, but Dutch was there with Jeff and our friend Shitstain, and Dutch went in the next room to do something. I don't know what, but he could still kind of hear. But apparently Russo took that opportunity to start whining about me to Jeff again. And apparently that day, a little bit of Russo's gravy went all over Jeff's plate. And Dutch heard him say, hey, Jeff doesn't cuss that much, but it was kind of to the point of, fuck it then. Go ahead and have the fight with him and see how it comes out. So maybe Russo was reading some of this, but would you like to hear just one or two updates on the agent reports?
Absolutely.
And I've started to get a little more detailed here because I've not only got the date, but I got the show number. So we can actually deal with this with some specificity. January 24th of 2007, TNA Impact, it was show number 218. The cold open. Shot of City Hall where Sting has searched records. Not a soul in sight at City Hall. Another one of these goofy stories that Sting was researching Abyss's past to find out about Mitchell and his whole thing. And I said a couple weeks ago that I think it was going to end up with Mitchell was really Abyss's father, which may have still happened later on. But in this one, I believe we were going to find out here shortly that Abyss had shot his father in the back, said for some fucking reason before he was committed to wherever, I don't fucking know, right? So they take Sting to a goddamn official looking building. I don't even know if it was, maybe it said City Hall of somewhere, but it was obviously like a Sunday afternoon when nobody was there. They had no permit. They just shot Sting at a fucking government building as a tease to a wrestling program. And then they recapped the package with Cage and Angle and Joe. Well done and interesting. Sting and Abyss. Well performed, but story is not remotely believable. So then the first segment starts with Samoa Joe in the ring, and he announces that he is the unofficial enforcer for the pay-per-view match, which I believe is going to be between Christian Cage and Kurt Angle. Angle busts, and busts it interrupts, unscheduled. Believes Joe is the consultant and doesn't trust him because there's a consultant going around somewhere too. Joe swears he's on the level, but Angle doesn't trust that either. Joe does want Kurt's belt, but Cage busts and reveals Joe is not the consultant, but that may be a lie. Even if he doesn't know, tonight he'll give another clue. Then Kurt attacks Joe and they fight till security pulls him apart. This might be fine if Joe and Angle hadn't already been enemies, partners, watching each other's back, etc. for 4 months now. And I don't believe most viewers want to think hard enough to figure this shit out. Because remember, that's what he did to Samoa Joe and Angle. They did that first match with Dutch's build and a kind of an MMA style big fight promotion. And it did the only decent pay-per-view number they ever did. And then Russo got involved with it. And suddenly Joe and Angle were partners, but then they still didn't like each other, but they had to watch each other's backs for the other guys to not get them before they got each other. And he muddled it up into horse shit. Anyway, then we go to Tomko, poor old Travis Tomko at the announce desk, and he promises wholesale changes. Will there be? If not, it's just another red herring going nowhere. And if so, that point was lost because I'm still trying to figure out all the clues I got in the promo. Too many teases and questions is worse than none. Then we go to Borash with Mitchell and Abyss. Trading not pressing charges for kidnapping in exchange for a prison yard match is pretty far out. Mitchell lost intensity when he went into Abyss's secret past, biblical stuff, etc., and it sounded scripted. Because this was when, again, Russo had just reformed his bond with Christ or whatever, and so everything had to have, if it was Jerry Springer show on the Christian Broadcasting Network. Does that make sense, Brian?
Is that a trick question?
Yes. No. Seg 2 on the wrestling program with no wrestling. I'm in the back with Raven and Serotonin. These are the young fellows that he's trying to make into another flock because, of course, obviously Russo wants to recreate anything that had to do with ECW 10 years after the fact, and anybody that worked for ECW is wholeheartedly in favor of that. So I said about me with Raven and Serotonin, humorous, but I order Raven to wrestle and he still doesn't wrestle. It's supposed to be Rhino versus Raven with Serotonin. All 3 Serotonins hit and Rhino clears the ring of them in 15 seconds. The fans sit on their hands. AJ, dressed as Raven, steps in and KOs the War Machine with 1 cane shot. The referee rings the bell and DQs a match that never started, and the announcers actually don't even notice. Then the referee just leaves as AJ uses another cane shot and a chair shot. We go to replays in the middle of a violent attack. We come back and Rhino is bleeding, and a bunch of security run in and act scared of AJ physically, and we go to break all in a minute and a half. What was this? Then Christian Cage was in the TV truck with Letitia. Remember, she's the one that ended up being the girlfriend of Mike from American Pickers. She was a goofy, non-talented interview girl. Cute. What I said, with 2-minute matches in a show, there is little time for puff pieces like this. Segment 3 on the wrestling program that so far has had 1 match that didn't actually start, it just stopped. Ron Killings, A Few Good Black Men graphic. because the announcer said he's headed to Hollywood, like we're really supposed to believe it, and they do too, not like a heel lying, which is the only reason for this that I can see. They were making graphics of Ron killings in different movies, but changing the titles so they can get sued. Would you like to hear Paparazzi Productions, Brian?
Oh boy, this is always a highlight.
Jeremy Borash buying condoms with Eric Young. Besides the fact we're in segment 3 without a match yet, West pitched to this, quote, "This is hilarious," thus killing the viewer's interest in seeing for themselves if it's funny or not. This was funny. Storm was great. I guess James Storm was involved. And in a show of wrestling matches, this would have gotten over, but this just blends in because we threw 50 things at him in this show. We had a match come up. Chris Sabin versus Sin Shi, who was low key, versus Jerry Lynn versus Austin Starr, who was Austin Aries. Only Sabin got an entrance, so automatically I know these guys are the jobbers and the match is filler. I like Austin Starr. Remember this 20 years ago. He could work. I just didn't know he was a unrepentant turnip addict. Sin Shi to me is just so small. Sabin showed some oomph. Jerry Lynn was the star of the match. His win got a nice pop. 4 minutes bell to bell for a 4-way. We're back to Letitia sitting down with Voodoo Ken Mafia. Remember Billy Gunn, who I've been reminded was Kip James, and Road Dogg, who was BG James at that time, or whatever the fuck he was. Anyway, great B-roll work over the promo, but this cheesy background music over these promos has to go. Why is Brian disagreeing with Billy Gunn when it makes him look like a heel and a pussy? I don't know what they were doing. Seg 4, VTR recap LAX 3D angle. Good Conan promo, nicely done. Then Sting in ring to reveal Abyss's secret. Okay. Sting tried to explain a convoluted story, and he's not a dramatic actor. Calling Abyss Chris and telling this story about him has shot him in the back 3 times. A preposterous scenario that absolutely no one believes, being presented as legitimate by the announcers and thus killing their credibility. Fans didn't react or care at all after this build, except to say, ooh, on the shot his father line, as if to say, I can't believe they lie about that. Abyss hitting the ring and Sting just taking the beating without fighting back made everyone look stupid. Sting's biblical goodness or whatever made him look like a fucking moron. The announcers on camera screaming for a camera to follow them outside was the hokiest thing ever on TV. Abyss beating on Sting unabated for 2.5 minutes with a choke slam through a table, a wall, etc., and still Sting gets up. So Mitchell steps in and sets him on fire. What about a desperation fireball by a heel on the verge of defeat? In summation, Sting is an idiot. Abyss is now supposedly an attempted father murderer. And I never want to see these two fight again. This angle is dead. And if you will recall, it was Abyss facing Sting in the last rights match where the fans came up with the chant "Fire Russo."
Oh, that's
so it's
right.
not
I did not remember that until you just said that. That was who was wrestling when that happened.
Yeah, it's not like I'm exaggerating about this fucking angle, right? So then we go to Seg 5. An ambulance with Sting pulling out. On camera, announcers, they were trying to sell this father shooting like the Kennedy assassination while every 12-year-old watching scoffed. Borash with Cage and Tomko. Cage's third interview tonight. We're at 4 minutes of wrestling so far. Great promo, but why? Chris Daniels versus Christian Cage. This is the main event. Nice pace, good action, back and forth. Tomko interferes for heat spot 1 minute in. Joe heads to the ring with a chair at 120 and all the action stops. Sits ringside and to break in less than 2 minutes. That was Christopher Daniels against Christian Cage. We got a minute and a half to start. We come back in seg 6, back up. Cage has Daniels in a hold, and we go to Borash with comments from Joe during the match. Can we just have a fucking match? No action the first 1 minute back for this. Then as Daniels begins his comeback, the announcers are plugging next week's TV time. Great comeback. Daniels gets submission hold, but both Joe and Tomko roll in. They don't fight. Referee doesn't call a DQ. Daniels lets go and turns his back on Cage for no reason. Cage ball kicks him. Hebner, the referee, has to obviously not see it. Finish 1, 2, 3 in only 4 minutes. Flat finish and not nearly what these guys could have done with no handicaps. Joe runs Cage and Tomko off, but Cage still teased he's on Joe's side. Angle runs in and argues with Joe. I don't think this angle is working because nobody knows who the fuck to trust or cheer for. Under 10 minutes bell-to-bell wrestling in this show. 1 hour. Comments, Brian.
I remember what the show was that you were reviewing from the summer of 2006. It's amazing how quickly it became this. Like all this.
All this. All this. I'll give you one more. We're going to go to the next week. February 1st, 2007, show number 219. VTR recap last week, Cage Joe Angle. This story makes more sense in highlight form. VTR recap last week, Sting Abyss Secret. This story doesn't make any sense in any form. VTR last week after we went off the air. Abyss and Mitchell caught the ambulance and opened it. Sting was gone. Where do I start? Last week, the ambulance pulled off with at least 10 minutes of airtime left, so we would have known then. Who is Sting? The Black Scorpion that Abyss beats him to a pulp, Mitchell sets him on fire, and he disappears before they pull off? Where were the paramedics in the back of the ambulance? Are we doing this as a Saturday morning kids show now? Important questions, Brian.
And later on, of course, AEW would copy that for Shaquille O'Neal's big appearance in AEW.
Yeah. Oh my God, did he see?
Right? He got into the ambulance, he disappeared.
He has stolen all the worst wrestling from all the worst bookers. Anyway, so then we do the open and the pyro that gave me tinnitus. And then Borash outside JC's office. Why is Backlund here? That's just a question I wrote. And I don't not like Bob, but it's just like he just showed up and was wandering around and there was never any. Anyway.
No, that question's been asked a lot over the last 30 years.
Chris Sabin with a walker dressing as an old man to mock Jerry Lynn worked like gold when Jimmy Hart and the First Family did it once a year, but this fell in with the other comedy scenery. Sabin did a great job. Opening match, Jay Lethal versus Alex Shelley versus Sanjay Dutt versus Austin Starr versus Jerry Lynn. 5 entrances, and Shelley delivers a fucking Death Valley driver in 145. The same guys that always wrestle each other plus Jerry Lynn. This is what the viewer sees in this clump. Sabin appeared on the walker before the first move of the match. Starr has something and needs to get out of this pack. Again, my boy Aries. Lynn gave it life, and the multiple dives got over. Didn't see him every week then. Sabin wearing the Depends. God damn it. Actually may have worked. Finish got a touch of heat, and it's good. Starr went over. 3 heels get heat after and then run from Senshi, who is empty-handed. Only 3 minutes and 15 seconds bell to bell. Then Cage and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know he was never a big guy, but he was certainly one of the indie darlings of his era, Low-Key. Low-Key was kind of a cool name, and then you'd see him like, oh, that's Low-Key, but, it kind of worked.
Yeah.
Senshi, every time you're saying that, I'm chuckling. It doesn't.
Well, because it was, they didn't own Low-Key or whatever, and they wanted the martial arts thing, which was the only calling card he had because he could do the kicks and the stuff, which would make up for the size. But Whatever. Sinshi, Austin Starr. They thought he was Billy Graham. Cage and Tomko are backstage, and Cage sends Tomko off to guard the consultant. I still can't remember what the consultant was consulting. We might get there. All right, Seg 2, Paparazzi Productions. LAX is in an Italian restaurant, and they're working with Team 3D, or they've been working a program with them. But again, they're at an Italian restaurant, and I wrote, as a viewer, here is what I saw. LAX runs into an Italian place in New York and beat up the old cook named Nick. I don't know why I'm seeing it, what it has to do with anything, why someone would want to broadcast tape of themselves committing felonies, or why the TV truck would show it just because Alex Shelley dropped it off 5 fucking minutes ago. This is preposterous. Why hadn't TNA heard its wrestlers were committing crimes, and why would we show it in this manner? Why was this presented cold with no explanation? Announcers then still didn't tell us anything, but when you go to a quote unquote, you go to a family, it's too far. This whole deal was just confusing. And later on, I believe we heard that the Italian guy was related to Bubba. Probably not Devon, but Bubba. But what? Nobody knew that. What the fuck are we looking at? Anyway, we're still in Seg 2. Samoa Joe enters, in-ring promo. Good job. Cage busts on screen, teases a deal with Joe. Cage showed personality, but I'm confused again. Borash with James Storm and Miss Tennessee. Good wrestling heel promo. Eric Young is embarrassed about rubbers. Backlund acting like he has Tourette's syndrome. Christy Hemme busts into JC's office and the Voodoo Kin Mafia chase her. Busy segment, to say the least. Seg 3. Letitia with Mitchell and Abyss. Good promo, dead issue. Rude. Robert Roode, Bobby Roode. Tracy Brooks, Eric Young recap. In highlight form, I understand this and the performances look good, but it took weeks of TV and dodgy performances to get the package. Then we go to a match. Robert Roode with Miss Brooks versus Petey Williams with Gail Kim. These guys did a great job. Hot action early. Heat spot made sense. Roode looked sharp. Fans were with it, and they did as good in 2 minutes and 30 seconds as they could have. Nice comeback, cat fight. Storm on time for the fuck. Got heat. Miss Tennessee glommed Gale, double heat. Eric Young made a great save, and they told the Young Brooks story. And they got 2.5 minutes to do it in. Back to JC's office with Christy Hemme and VKM, Voodoo Kin Mafia, having another argument. Seg 4. Are you captivated yet, Brian? A lot of arguing.
There's a lot of arguing, not a lot of wrestling. The wrestling you get is very short, and it's been such a long time. You know, I always liked the fact that Nitro gave you a lot of wrestling in the 1 hour or 2 hour. You know, you got a lot of matches because nothing went long. But when nothing goes long and it's filled up in between by a majority of these segments, that ain't it either. But then look where we are today. Both companies, Dynamite and Raw and SmackDown, matches that go on forever. Nothing short. It has to be a happy medium.
No, that ain't the way Vinny Roo's going to do it. I mean, on Raw one night, we had a 6-man tag team match with a fuck finish and a heel turn and a promo beforehand, and we went out there with 1 minute 45 seconds to do it. And then he had the nerve to sit down and start castigating some of the boys when they came through the curtain because it was the shits. And he started telling a couple of guys, I think Taka Michinoku might have been involved, started telling a couple of the guys as they came through what they should have done. And I walked through and I said, you know what? One of these days, somebody's going to beat the fuck out of you. I didn't say at that time it might be me. I said, you don't fucking, when somebody has gone out to the ring and through no fault of their own laid a fucking turd like that, You wait till they sit down and towel off and calm down a little bit. And then you go in there and sit down on the bench next to them and lead with, boy, you guys didn't have enough time and we probably should have done things differently. But instead of, bro, you didn't bro, because elsewise you'll bro your fucking teeth off the bro floor, bro. Anyway, I digress.
You brought up earlier the pay-per-view where the fans started chanting "Fire Russo." Are you going to have the agent report for that one?
I don't know. I haven't read through the rest of them yet. I've got, how far do I have here? Let me see that. These go till, let's see. Well, fuck. I got something
audio,
for
folks.
Hold on. Sorry. Well, you asked a question. I've got a lot of March and then I've got some May. So I don't know. We'll see what's in there. But I'll get back to this show. Segment 4, Ron Killing's Few Good Black Men speech. What the fuck is he talking about? Abruptly, we go to the announcers who don't even acknowledge what we just saw. That's because the show was constantly running long with all this dreck that he put in it. And they'd have to make edits. They would take shit out where it didn't make sense. Jim Mitchell in-ring promo. He tried here. And it was a good delivery, but nobody cared to the point you could hear them not caring. Traded 20 years in prison for a prison yard match. Jesus Christ. Staying in the rafters wearing Abyss's mask. Tenay said it best. What's going on? Chris Daniels vignette. Well done. Hopefully his new outlook will be well thought out as he can be a top guy. Lance Hoyt package. Oh, I'm sorry, segment 5. Lance Hoyt package about the White Sox. Good for curiosity, but no one will be on the edge of their seats. Jeremy Borash with Devon. As a viewer, I still don't know what the fuck happened, other than LAX disrespected Bubba Ray's, parenthetically, and presumably at this point, Devon's as well, family. No uncle, no why Devon is upset or why Bray needs to be with the family. Why do I care if I don't know? They just beat up some random fucking cook in a restaurant and wouldn't even plainly come out and say that what the whole deal was, and it was his uncle. Guess what the next match was?
What?
AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe.
Oh, wow. Big
wow,
match.
Right?
Yeah.
These guys have had great matches and could really sell the TNA in-ring product, but not in 3 minutes. Seemed to flounder like they never got started. Joe's mobility may be down with the bad knee. Anyway, okay action for 3 minutes. AJ fakes a knee injury. Rhino tosses him back in for the DQ, and AJ powders. Flat finish to a short match that devalued both talents. But Joe gets a chair and won't leave as we go to the break. Segment 6. We open with Angle already standing over Joe in the ring. So we went to break. Joe sitting in a chair and not going to leave. We open the next segment. Angle is standing over him. You can't even say, well, goddamn, we missed it because we didn't stay tuned. We did stay tuned and we still missed it. Anyway, Angle demands to know what's up, calls him a liar. Joe starts beating the piss out of Angle 30 seconds into the segment. Cage hits the ring with a chair, swings at Joe, duck, hits Angle. Cage tries to shake Joe's hand. Joe beats the piss out of Cage. AJ comes back and sloppily stops Joe. Nails him with a chair several times. Is this that AJ Styles or is this that AJ baseball player? I'm trying to remember.
AJ Przinsky?
It might be him. But anyway, then Angle off air with this heat in a total of 2 minutes. Is AJ the consultant? I sure got that impression. If we swerve them so much, will they ever believe what we want them to? I am at this point less interested in Joe and Angle just because they can't make up their fucking minds. And Kurt Angle is now neurotic, which is not a good trait for our Hulk Hogan. People like the action here, but what did this sell me? 9 minutes bell to bell. Watching this, I wished I could have seen the rest of the show. It felt like I missed. So that's where we were headed in January 2007 in TNA. And people wonder why that they never fucking got anywhere.
People wonder why nobody bought those pay-per-views.
Oh my God. I think I could have sold more OVW pay-per-views in 2001 that they were selling in 2007. But anyway, we'll keep the people apprised on the way that this unfolds, because history always repeats itself. We're seeing that now because the same people sometimes are making the same mistakes. Other people are making the same mistakes, and some of the same people are making the same mistakes. It's terrible when you do that, Brian. You know what mistake you shouldn't make, Brian?
No, which one?
Eating bad food. Do not eat bad food, because food is it's your gasoline. It's your life source. It's what makes your body run. And a lot of people are out there eating bad food. And as my mother, Mama Cornette, used to say, I'd rather eat good food than bad food any old day of the week. And I'm sure you could agree with that line of thought. And that's why that we know our friends at Factor. Brian, at factormeals.com, you're going to find good food. And you're going to be able to order it and have it sent to your home. Chef crafted, dietitian approved, fully prepared meals without the planning, the grocery runs, the cooking, the cleanup. All you got to do is pop what's already prepared for you right in the microwave, heat it up and eat it. It's not just some kind of gas station dreck. Oh no, au contraire, mon frere. Every meal crafted with functional ingredients, including colorful veggies and whole foods. You want potatoes? They give you the whole fucking potato. Just don't order watermelon. It's extra shipping. And Factor has no artificial colors or sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup, no seed oils, just nutrient-dense food. This shit's thick, boy. I'm telling you, you'll need a goddamn bandsaw to get through some of this. It's so thick with
Okay, let's stop
nutrients.
there for a second. No, you won't. And also, just for
It's
the record,
loaded with
they
nutrition.
Don't charge, for the record, they don't charge extra for watermelons. You can't just request
If you
send
order
me a
the whole
watermelon.
goddamn thing,
That's not one of the things they offer. They have wonderful meals, again, crafted by chefs. I enjoy the teriyaki salmon as well as other wonderful, fun, and nutritious meals that the listeners can check out right now.
Yes, well, they have over 100 rotating weekly meals. They're spinning around. And if you throw the dart and fucking pin it down, boom, it's yours. There's globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian. And then there's just redneck, like fried chicken, collard greens, and a fucking RC Cola.
They don't have the redneck.
Well,
plan
why
for
should the fucking Mediterranean people get their diet? Some motherfucker from Mississippi can't get any respect. You think they're eating miso edamame in Mississippi?
Well, they can now. I guess that's the point. That's the
Well, it
wonderful
goes.
thing about
Actually, they
Factor.
can't ship edamame to Mississippi because none of the postal clerks can spell it. But folks, you can go right now to factormeals.com/JCE50 off. That's the code JCE50 off, and you're going to get 50% off and free daily greens per box. Sometimes it's alfalfa, sometimes it's broccoli, sometimes it's just a bag of yard clippings, but it's free.
No, it's never a bag of yard clippings. Let's just
it's
specify
a well-kept yard.
Never, ever, no.
A well-kept yard.
No, it's not. You can have your own well-kept yard. That's not part of the daily greens.
Well, I only mow mine about once a week, so I can see where you're coming from there. But folks, once again,
come on.
It's new subscriptions only while the supplies last, because with the drought, the yard greens are drying up. But until September,
no yard greens, and let's hope for no drought.
Until September 27th, you're going to be able to get 50% off with the code JCE50 off. JCE50 off at factormeals.com/JCE. Don't cook and clean and slave. If it's just you sitting at home alone, nobody will judge you. The dog may look sideways at you, But just eat some good food that somebody else made instead of shitty stuff you're going to make yourself. And it's healthy and good for you. Factormeals.com/JCE50 off.
That's right. Very popular in this household. Factormeals.com/JCE50 off.
Yes, that's exactly right. All righty then. Well, but before we get into the main event of the program, which was this fiasco that they have done in AEW this past week, that now who knows what in the world these people are thinking, and this stadium show could be quite grim. But before that happens, is there anything going on over there at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this fine week?
Of course there is, as there is every week. Get through, go do it. It's hot, it's late. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on fucking Twitter at Superpodcast, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, the wrestling news each and every day. Get your wrestling news for free, minus opinion, minus conjecture, minus star ratings. No paywall, no clickbait, just the wrestling news. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, or of course directly from thewrestlingnews.com. Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, looking at 40 years ago in wrestling. Check it out today, McAdamPod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcast. And of course, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. Listen to the latest episode right now, SUAWPod.com. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast. Ladies and gentlemen, it's hot, it's late.
Talking about power slap.
The 605 Superpodcast, the mothership.
Oh, Christ, you got that one out.
Go through the archive. And thank you to everyone who has. There's all of a sudden a big burst of people checking out the mothership, 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The mothership.
They're checking out the podcast, the mothership, because they're looking for an escape route, anything they can find. But all right, speaking of escaping, we can't get away without talking about this past. Again, I've been trying to keep up with MJF and Ospreay to see their build or lack thereof to the Wembley Stadium main event title match to finally, at this point, long overdue, make Ospreay the top babyface. And this week, they've muddled this thing up so much, you almost had to watch the entire show because they're pushing them and other people and involving other people in their shit. And it's a mess. So again, the first match on the show was the title match that they booked with Mark Briscoe and MJF Mark Briscoe against MJF, where they had done a 12-man tag on TV after they announced a 12-man tag cage for the pay-per-view. So the 12-man tag on TV could set up the already announced 12-man tag on pay-per-view, wherein Mark Briscoe got to win his shot at MJF for the title, which they then have on TV. But before we even got to that, it must be something almost personal against Will Ospreay that they are trying to project him or portray him as the biggest dipshit that's ever walked. Because they start off the show with Renee Moxley Good with Ospreay after his match at the pay-per-view and his wife, Alex Mountbatten Windsor. And he's just talking for a second and he sees Moxley. And then they do the thing where everybody else just disappears and the interviewer goes away and there's a heart-to-heart talk between just this guy, that guy, and the entire national television audience based on the camera being in front of him. And Ospreay asks Moxley, his mentor, the guy's been training him to actually, win something, know what he's doing, whatever they're trying to portray here. He asks asked Moxley, what did you mean by wanting to see it from me? And Moxley said, if I could explain that, I'd do it for everybody. If you want to be the real thing, you got to live it. The business is full of backstabbers. It's up to us to protect AEW. The heels, it's up to the heels to protect. And they didn't take it over when they wanted to take it over. Now they're trying to protect it from what? Themselves. And then he gives Osprey this tiny little Death Riders patch, like not like a big goddamn Hell's Angels on the back of your motorcycle, like a little goddamn Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I got one at summer camp for archery that's bigger than this fucking thing.
Like getting the little wings on the plane when you're a kid.
Yeah. Do they still do that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they ought to. Say, start training the kids early to fly their own planes. Anyway, then, while Osprey is standing there wondering about the patch that's been bestowed on him so he can ride with them in their panel van that plays ice cream truck music. But then Kenny sees Osprey, and Kenny's proud of Osprey. But then Osprey gets prickly and says, "You're not my dad. Just because you've given up on yourself doesn't mean that I have." What the fuck now that... Again, Osprey, babyface. He's training with the heels. He's helped out and encouraged by the heels. Now he's prickish to all the other baby faces. Then MJF walked up, and Kenny told MJF that if he survives Briscoe, then he's going to be knocking on MJF's door. And then Kenny tells, "Hey, Will, get some rest. We'll always be friends." What the... It's the worst use of a top baby face ever in wrestling history, I think. It just... Osprey's a flunky. He's a stooge. He's a second string fucking guy that's being manipulated, pulled around. Then we get any comments about that before we go to the AEW title match?
It went a while, and because it did, and because it was so quiet, other than them talking, whoever them were in this segment, because it kept changing, I hated it. I hate this whole, like, no one sees the camera. Everyone pretends the cameraman isn't there. They're all having these conversations. Like, we're not a part of it. I don't like it, and all these guys are just bad acting. I mean, Jon Moxley, he had a whole fucking speech. He had a whole speech he gave him standing in that doorway. He had been planning this out for a while. I guess the bigger thing, and we could talk about it as the show goes on, is where are they going and what
If they
what
try
is
to,
or what should be the main event at Wembley at the way things are going right now on this show.
if they try to change this from Will Ospreay beating MJF, the only true heel and legitimate kind of ratings mover in the company, not my opinion, just based on the statistics and the reaction, if they change that to Ospreay winning the title in his home country from not only a guy that's past his prime, is broken down, that ain't going to wrestle a full schedule probably ever again, but also another babyface that probably is more popular now because people are feeling sorry for him, that he's about washed up and on the end of things. How is that a triumph in your home country to beat another popular guy in a match that won't be nearly as good as MJF and fucking Osprey? Because then you could actually have a match. There's somebody to root for and somebody to boo. MJF is not going to try to do all that fucking goofy, stupid indie shit that Omega does. He's going to have hopefully as logical a match as possible and get Osprey fucking over. And it's not going to be the same shit we see from every other one of these 5-star fuckwits that Meltzer praises. And they had a ready-made story. Osprey, career-ending injury, has surgery, comes back, begins the climb to the top, while MJF could have had a goddamn reign of terror beating all these people. And then you peak them in August. And instead, they've muddled this whole thing up. And now we're trying to... How is that going to convince people to buy any tickets for Wembley Stadium when they're making people doubt that they're going to see MJF and Osprey to begin with?
Well, I don't think the match is a draw. I don't think MJF Osprey is going to draw people there. I mean, Omega.
Well, not particularly more than anybody that's already bought the ticket, but if they think they're going to see Omega and Osprey, aren't they going to ask for their money back on what they've already bought?
Oh, they may like that more. The AEW fan?
Christ.
The AEW fan? A main event of their all-time legend, Kenny Omega, versus the heir apparent, Will Ospreay? And it's a title change, and it's at Wembley, and they can go 35 minutes? And Omega can have one last match where he puts everything out there. And because here's the other thing. If that isn't where they're going, explain what they're doing on this show. Because
I can't.
They've made me not want to see MJF versus Ospreay. And MJF's continual thing with Mark Briscoe, and it's nothing against Mark Briscoe. I've liked him plenty in the past. I don't dig any of this. And this has been going on for a while. It's taken me down on wanting to see MJF. I'm sure him and Omega will be great. That's a big match. I thought they were going to do that at the pay-per-view. They're doing it next week on the show. I'm starting to wonder what they're going to do, and then you'll get MJF versus like Andrade or something at the pay-per-view.
Well, in the match with Briscoe and MJF for the AEW title on this very program of Dynamite, I wrote at the top of it, I said, these guys have a good match when it's not anything goes, no DQ, lazy booking, whatever, because Briscoe can go and MJF is smarter about it than most folks. And it wasn't a no DQ, anything goes match. They just did the shit anyway. And within the first minute, MJF had pulled off the bandage and bit Briscoe's wound from the pay-per-view, and he was bleeding. But then Briscoe beat shit out of MJF and got the chair and jumped off of it to do a dive and then pulled out a table and set the table up and put MJF on it and went to the top. But MJF slammed him off the top onto the apron and slid the table back under the ring. It's there. Now it's to the point where MJF or anybody can get heel heat by removing the goddamn furniture from the match, because that's the only thing they care about. They don't care who's wrestling because nobody's over. Just want to see stunts. So then Briscoe pulled the pad off the floor and he could try the J driller on the floor, but MJF backdropped him on the concrete floor. So immediately Mark Briscoe got back up and body slammed MJF on the floor and then gave him a froggy bow off the apron onto the floor. And then they fought on the floor some more. Briscoe pulled the table back out and set it up, but MJF dropped toe holding him into a chair. The referee's just staring, as always. The pace was glacial at this. If they were using the ring and didn't have to worry about setting up the props and the fucking bullshit, then they could have had an exciting match. They were on the floor long enough to be counted out 10 times, doing nothing but pulling furniture around. Then Briscoe put MJF on the table again, started to walk up the stairs and fucking fell right off the goddamn stairs. By accident, not on purpose. It was like that clip of Kelsey Grammer giving the speech where he's walking along the stage and suddenly he just drops off the edge of it. You hear from a big pit, oh my God. Have you ever seen that?
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. But point is, he fell because they'd pulled the stairs out and he didn't notice. So he just walked off the edge of the fucking stairs. Then he got back up, went to the top and did an elbow drop off the top rope on MJF through the table, rolled him in the ring, 1, 2, leg on the ropes. Jesus Christ. The bumps on the concrete, the fucking constant, the referee standing and staring. What the fuck? They went back and forth. Briscoe went to the top, another elbow, and a J driller for a 2 count. Now, every move is worthless. Every finish doesn't work. A lot of back and forth. And then finally, MJF just hit him with a Alabama slam like Bob Holly and a heat seeker 1, 2, 3. A cold 12-man to set up an already announced 12-man cage to get this match, and Briscoe loses again. So then MJF gets the diamond ring and levels Mark Briscoe. One punch. And the doctors are in immediately. Check it out. Not for off the top rope through a table. Not for a fucking J driller on a concrete or whatever, for a punch with a diamond ring. Oh, Jesus Christ. And then MJF runs the doctors off. But then Kenny runs out and MJF bails. And Kenny gets the microphone. And here we go again. This fucking breathy, douchey, soppy challenges for a match tonight. And MJF says, no, but actually, let's do it next week. If I win, then you can never challenge for the title again. Same as Paige. I'm thinking, great, we can get another one out of the way of the goddamn main event picture here. And then Kenny is going to ponder. They go to a break and they come back and MJF is in the back now with Renee. And he's cutting a promo on Andrade. Then he listed all the guys that he's beaten and Kenny's going to be the same. But Ospreay walks in and tells MJF, you're going to break your neck sucking yourself off, pal. Bruv. How can they say that on TBS? How is that a thing that you can say? And so at that point, we were 40 minutes into this fucking show, and we still have to find out if Kenny is going to take the deal to have the stip to do the match next week, the blah, blah, blah. But what in the... They've just cluttered this thing up to the point where it's just a mess. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well,
your thoughts?
I don't know if I should share. I don't know what to share here versus later, because obviously there's another Omega promo segment later in the show.
Well, let's go to it. Let's skip ahead. We don't have to be chronological. Let's skip right ahead, because all the way into the overrun, then we've got Ospreay trying to talk Kenny out of taking the stipulation. No, bruv, don't do that, bruv. It's not worth it, bruv. And Kenny's, they hugged, by the way, they hugged. So they're still friends. They were prickish earlier, but they're still friends. And then Kenny comes out and again, as bland and as boring and as milksopish as usual. If we all believe I can do it, like Peter Pan. I don't know whether he's Peter Pan or Tinkerbell. I can do it. And I'll face Will Ospreay at Wembley. And I wrote, people will start returning tickets. If is he still the best bout machine? Does it tell anything about these indie-minded dipshits that they have legitimately given this guy on national TV in America a fucking nickname created by people whose English is a second language? So after a long time, Kenny accepted for next week and did his stupid fucking sign-off. Mwah, kiss you, love you, bang, good night. And then MJF blasted him from behind and went to beat him up, but Kenny leg dived him and threw 16 punches. I counted like a 7-year-old girl that never came close to anything and wouldn't have hurt anything if they had. That's the best bout machine. Go back and look at it on the video. Anybody. You think I'm lying? Go back and look at this on the video. And tell me that this fake fucking guy knows what the fuck he's doing in a goddamn professional wrestling context when he can't throw a punch and hit a guy twice out of 16. Fucking idiot. So now they've got that fucking bullshit in the way. And again, as I said, and I'll give you the floor for what you were holding to say. If they switch Kenny out for MJF, not only because MJF would be he's a better worker, he'd be a better match, he's a fucking clear heel, he's somebody you can get a baby face over on, just to have one of their 7-star, supposedly sloppy ass, fake, phony, silly looking fucking wrestling matches. The WWE doesn't need to sabotage these son of a bitches. They do it themselves. What did you have to comment on?
So coming out of this, again, they have a pay-per-view coming up in between now and Wembley. It seemed like they were setting it up to be Omega versus MJF there. Maybe it still will be, but they're going to have this match for this stipulation next week. What do you think's going to happen?
Under normal circumstances, MJF would beat him because who gives a shit whether Omega ever has another world title match? He probably doesn't even want one. He don't want to be world champion again. So that's logical. Take that away from Kenny, get more heat on MJF. That works. But you've got Dave, who is the mouth organ for all these people, saying, oh, but, you know, Kenny and Ospreay's a match they've talked about because of the greatness of it. He says with a straight face that Omega is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world now and one of the best he's ever seen. Both statements are, I'm sorry, demonstrably bullshit. But so you don't know who's Tony listening to. These indie-minded fucks that think it's better for both guys to do a bunch of dives, or the people in the wrestling business that think you ought to get your baby face over and draw some money.
Will MJF get heat if he beats Kenny Omega next week, do you think, from those fans?
From those fans, if they know that Kenny can't ever challenge for the world title again, I think it would piss them off. Because they are like Dave. They think this fucking guy is any good.
And it's a title match, right? It's not a challenger match. It's a title match.
No, it's a title match. Yes.
So what do you think is going to happen?
That's what I just said. In any logical world, MJF would beat him. But who knows? With Tony listens to Dave because they're both have the same brainwave fucking issue and think along the same lines.
Well, we'll see, but it looks
who knows? I don't care how many tickets they sell at Wembley or how good the matches are. So they can do it right or not. Doesn't matter to me.
Well, the other problem
I wasn't even there.
If MJF doesn't wrestle Ospreay, who does MJF wrestle? I don't want to see him and Briscoe ever again.
Probably with his conscience over re-signing that last contract.
Maybe Andrade to build on the weird, awkward feud they had. Or...
Well, good. Then for the first time ever, I can skip an MJF match and won't miss anything. It's a very different concept about business, Brian. You know, business is a funny thing. Business is a funny thing. You gotta have the right kind of business and the right kind of people doing your business and the right kind of support for your business. Or elsewise, it's just monkey business. And that's what our friends at Shopify do for a lot of people. They don't monkey around. They give you quality support for your business. Millions of businesses worldwide. They handle, there you go, at bicycle shops. Bicycle repair is big these days. Shopify handles the setup and checkout. They do from start to finish, from woe to go and go to woe, or whichever way you're going. Millions of businesses around the world, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark. Actually, Gymshark was not a name in this household, but I know Mattel. To small businesses just getting started, like yours out there in podcast land. If you've got a small business, well, you need big support. And that's why Shopify has that purple button that indicates that you're going to get customers out the yin yang because they trust it. They just punch that purple button and you get money. Imagine if you just could tape one of those purple buttons on your forehead, just walk down the street and have people popping it all day. That's like what it is. So with Shopify, you don't need a real job. You can build your own business. Everybody's got a business these days.
That
Why
is a
don't
real
you?
job. For the record, that is a real job.
Well, the copy from Shopify says that you don't need a real job.
Well, you're working for yourself. It's not a real job. Every day is a day off with Shopify.
Well, that's what it is because, see, you don't need a real job. You just need to shine up with Shopify is what you need to do. And they'll take care of the rest. All you need is an idea. Then they'll take it from there and give you some of the money. The only thing standing in between you and your own income is getting started right now. Be your own boss. Don't have to drive to work. Don't have to put up with all the goofy people you work alongside. You could just talk to Shopify's expert personnel on the internet and make it all worthwhile. So right now, you can get a free trial. Brian, you know what they've done? They've made it even better because we were offering a $1 a month trial, but now Shopify has said, fuck it. We're so good, we're just going to give you some of this for free. And I wish everybody in every line of work would feel that same way, especially pizza parlors and prostitutes. So start your free, she'll ring your bell. Start your free trial right now at shopify.com/JCE/JCE. That's the code. That's how you get a free trial. Not even $1 a month, and they will show you what they can do for you from conception to birth to growth to reality to, well, I guess everything dies eventually, but they'll be with you every step of the way. Not for free now. Eventually, you're going to have to pay something, but we'll worry about that later. Shopify.com.
Yeah.
/JCE.
/JCE. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to that slasher movie that we called AEW Dynamite. Tony was live with Andre and the rest of the Don Fallis family, took him to the ring and beat him up. We got that going for us. Okay, did you see Kevin Knight and Leo Rush? I just have to make a couple of comments on a couple more of these things.
I did because I'm intrigued by the Leo Rush character.
That's the kind of gimmick that would work on a serious show. It would work on a legitimate sports-based presentation of a wrestling program where the announcers were playing it straight and all the talent wasn't doing fake shit and winking at you all the time. With a manager, again, especially, I'm not talking about me. Oh, Cornette's angling for a job. I'm booked. But that character doesn't look like it should talk. So don't. Just have a manager and have this little gremlin, and he makes up for his lack of size with this weird, unorthodox shit. But, but here it's just more sketch comedy because it's like the TNA shows where there were things that individually would have gotten over on a straight program, but because it's just more of the same gaga, it gets lost. And then apparently Kevin Knight won and Darby came out and wants a TNT title match with him, or he said he's going to keep blowing Kevin Knight up with booby traps. The same things are going to keep on happening till you give me a title match. These people are in their 30s now, aren't they? Darby, didn't we say he's 30? Certainly late 20s.
Darby Allin is 33 years old.
Okay. And he wasn't even a person to say, Tony, come on, even as stupid as people think I am, and stupid as this show is, I'm not really going to set fucking improvised explosive devices for the boys to find them in the middle of a match.
You don't think it was his idea?
So then Jericho and Ciampa had a big fight in the back and went into the parking lot, which looks odd in broad daylight because they were in the West Coast. It was like 5 o'clock. And Ciampa tried to drill a power screwdriver into Jericho's head. And Jericho did a crossbody out of the back of a moving truck. And then security intervened. That was another thing they did. Then Moxley not only is advising Osprey, now they teamed up. You fucking top babyface bruv teaming up with his fucking bald-headed, over-the-hill, goddamn way past stale heel to take on two job guys, Blake Christian and Lee Johnson, that they proceed to have a goddamn competitive match with for 10 minutes or more. The jobbers attacked and shit-canned Ospreay. And then they got some really fake-looking heat on Moxley. But Ospreay did nothing for being beaten up and thrown out of the ring by job guys. He stood there in the corner and waited till Moxley gave him the tag, which was fairly quick. And then he made a comeback and beat up the jobbers and tagged Moxley back in and went to break. And when we came back, they were getting heat on Moxley. They were having a competitive match with thin, skinny job guys when both of them are supposed to be in the main event picture. Then Jay Lethal showed up and tripped Moxley. And Marina Schaefer came around and body slammed poor Jay Lethal on the floor. Now, women are beating up Jay Lethal on this show. He had so much more to offer. Then Moxley tagged Ospreay, and they finally barely beat the job guys. That's how they're pushing Ospreay. Did you like Jay White coming back, Brian?
No.
The light switch.
It was the exact promo I said it would be. Talks about himself, and everyone talks about themselves, but it's, I am the best. I am this. I am. Shut the fuck up, you.
He's very loud.
Oh. Yeah, it was exactly what I thought it would be. Fans like him, though, but I don't.
The first thing that he said, and he had the whole gangbang gang with him. Now there's 5 of them. 459 days he's been out of act. Did he have a heart transplant? What was the goddamn issue that kept him out of action for 459 days?
I'm not sure. Maybe he fell out of the ring and broke his visa. I really don't know.
Well, it was still long and still not real good. And they're mad at the dogs because the dogs are just not nice people. And then they had a 6-way girls match for the TBS title between 6 girls. Imagine that. This is getting Russo-rific in that you don't know who you can trust. You don't know who is supposed to be on what side. Who are we supposed to cheer for? And it's complicated by the fact that all the bad elements of Russo are there except for the short matches. In this case, the matches are painfully long because Russo didn't care about the action. He just wanted all the stupid fucking fake drama. But these guys are marks for themselves doing a lot of moves, but they still want to be dramatic actors or video game characters. So, in summation, this is the fakest fucking wrestling program I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry.
Well, that was dynamite. That was dynamite.
That certainly was. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up, though. Dark Side of the Ring, boy, howdy, is debuting next week. Actually, it'll be this week by the time people hear this. Tuesday night, July the 7th at 9 o'clock for the first 2 hours of the TNA Jeff Jarrett story. And then as we've talked to Evan Husney and about the various episodes, you can go to the YouTube channel and check out when we talk to him about them, but we will be reviewing them after they happen, and some more old-fashioned wrestling, and no pay-per-views for the rest of the month, right?
I hope. I think. I don't know. Is there something at the end of July?
We can pray. Well, the end of July, but I'm saying for the rest of the month. No more pay-per-views.
That is the month, though. You can't say the rest of the month if it's in the month.
Well, until the end of the month. It's almost the end of the month.
Until the end of the month. I accept that.
For the rest of the month until the end. That's what I said.
You know,
eggs hatch.
Yeah.
Eggs hatch, and you can't avoid it. We're done here, folks.
Biology!
Biology, science. We'll be be back on the drive-through with all kinds of stuff, and then on the experience with all kinds of stuff. Science! Goose shit.
Science!
Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.